Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. We are back for another week. The last week of Nationals has finally wrapped up. It is all done. We can now look and see what won the most, what was the winners and the losers out of Nationals. We're going to cover that. We're also going to cover what makes some of these decks actually good or bad. How can Syndra win a bunch of games and someone actually say the deck is bad? And we'll argue if that's true or not later. But first, let's see how people have done this week. Fino, I know you've been streaming and learning Gravy. So overall, how has your week in FAB been?
It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed sinking my teeth into this deck. I think this is the most fun I've had with Flesh and Blood in a long time because the deck is so complicated for both deck building and play. So I'm like really engaged during all of my games on a turn-to-turn basis. And right before this, I was actually sinking my teeth into some spreadsheeting with him, trying to map out all the different card choices that he's playing in the deck, and just like getting averages of what people are choosing to put in their decks for all the decks that I've topped. So that's been a fun new way of learning how to deck build.
Yeah, I know we talked about it a little bit this week, and I've definitely put in some Gravy time. I built my own version finally after playing probably every version that's ever came out. Put a little time to that, but we can talk about that more.
Well, if you want one more version, I just made a version that's just Gravy by the numbers. It's just statistically speaking, this is the correct Gravy deck based on just the data.
Well, that's the community agrees that is the best one, right? And then we do have our Gravy list and sideboard that was released last week as well for anyone who is Gilded tier. Now, next we have Noah. You're actually prepping for Singapore, so you're doing important things.
Yeah.
How is your week of prep been? We're getting very close to Singapore.
I know, it's spooky, dude. I fly out on Sunday, so less than a week until I'm departing to go there. I don't know. I'm pretty locked in on the deck I'm going to play for CC. I've been playing it at a few local tournaments, just trying to get like paper reps in with a hero that I haven't really been playing that much with IRL before, just to make sure I don't mess up the minutia, right? I think I probably have been slacking on my draft prep because I'm just hoping that like the Nats prep carried over, and I'll do some like last minute stuff just kind of as like a refresher course, but definitely been focusing more on CC, kind of the opposite of my Nats prep. And I'm a little bit uncertain of whether whether Singapore will be like the meta we usually see at Pro Tours, where things kind of consolidate. People play what they perceive to be best decks and aren't like taking flyers on off meta decks. But I think this one might be a unique case where it's different. So I've been trying to at least like understand what I'm trying to do into almost every possible deck someone could register, so I'm not caught off guard like I have been at recent tournaments and just like lose around for no reason when you can't top events if you're doing stuff like that.
Yep. It'll be cool to see you on a different deck that's not Florian. I think it's fine to say that you're not playing that.
100% chance I'm not bringing any Florian cards. There will be no face purgatory. So
any funny tokens?
Oh, I mean, my token stack is like taller than most people's decks. Maybe that gives you a clue as to what hero I'm playing.
You have the high ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lucas, you were like away on vacation last week. You are back now, digging back into prep. I know you're excited to go to Singapore. We talked about that earlier, but how's your week of FAB been?
Yeah, it was good. Last week I went to Disney World with my girlfriend. Had a lot of fun, got to relax, kind of get away from Flesh and Blood for a while, which is nice. I obviously haven't been like grinding forever, but it's kind of nice to like take your fingers off the pulse of the game for a little while. Just kind of reset. And now I'm back. I had already basically locked in a deck before I had left. I don't know why Noah's got such shit-eating grin on his face.
Take your fingers off the pulse.
I know.
Different saying, and then you abandon halfway. Come on, man.
No, I know.
You want to say take your foot off the gas, and then you started with fingers.
Yeah.
You were doomed.
Anyway.
It's okay, man.
It's okay.
You're rusty.
Nobody's perfect.
I'm enjoying how Fino just like ping-ponging back between you and Dan. I'm scared he's going to take me or Cody's spot at some point. He's taking Cody's spot, actually. I think I'm the only one who hasn't been kicked out for Fino.
Well, to be fair, you did a different podcast last week, so yeah. I don't know. Maybe you're gone next week.
Does that mean I get kicked?
Yeah. You're definitely gone next week. You're not. You're going to be in Singapore,
so
it'll be just for once. We're actually going to do a podcast the week of a pro tour because I'll be around. So I'll gather up all of us losers who aren't going to Singapore, and we'll do
Surely
all us
podcast.
porks. All us porks.
Yeah.
someone salvage all the tapes of all the podcasts we've done before and generate like an AI avatar of me that will join in on the podcast. Just like regurgitate all the things that I've said, and it'll be like perfectly flowing. No one will know the difference.
I'll just disagree with Lucas for you. Oh wait, is Lucas?
Yeah.
You're also going to be gone. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait, then we don't need you on the cast. That's just your sole purpose on the cast, just to keep Lucas in check.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You think we're a package deal? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that.
You're also one trick on the cast.
Fair. I have to balance out the Lucas hair factor. There was an argument about that in the Discord the other day.
Wait, what?
Bro, he's ready for a shonen anime.
Yeah. Lucas's hair was like tier 0. Mine was like didn't even make the tier list.
No.
So done.
Lucas, what Yu-Gi-Oh promo comes in the magazine your manga comes in? I want my $5 promo.
Pot of greed, baby. Draw 2 cards. Codex of Inertia, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Fair. This last week, I did what I said I was going to do. I played Vincent. And guess what? I'm not sick of playing Vincent. It's still on my list of things to play after spending about a week on it. Actually, like building a deck from scratch, kind of how I wanted it to look. I think the deck's very good. I think Vincent's infinitely better right now than it's ever been. If I was going to Singapore, I'd put way more, time into it to actually test out matchups. So there's like a bunch of like unknowns, but I think the deck's actually pretty good, very playable. I think you can play it in like multiple different ways. I think incorporating some of the like incredible stall tactics that you saw like Brody and Fang doing at the Battle Harden has fixed a couple of matchups that I didn't like. And you didn't have to do a lot to kind of get that style. You just have to run some like time snap potions. That was about it. But overall, I'll probably play more of the deck. It's going to like go in my rotation of stuff to work on. Cause essentially I'm just prepping for like Kansas City right now. Right. That's like the next thing.
Have you booked yet? I just booked. I'm going to Kansas City as well.
Yeah. I'm good to go next month for that. And then Montreal after that. And then it's like Worlds after that, I think. So I'm down for all of those things. So like right now I'm just like prepping for a calling next month.
I think I'm just doing Montreal right now.
Unfortunately, I cannot make Montreal, but I'll be in KC. I'll also be in Auckland if anybody wants to catch me there.
World Trotter.
Okay, let's cover briefly what won in the final week of Nationals. And again, the most winningest deck is going to be Slippy with 4 wins. Then we see Syndra at 3. Azalea picked up some wins, not enough wins.
So she's gone, right?
Right? No, they tried. They tried really hard. I was so proud of everyone who brought Azalea this final week to try and push her over the edge. Unfortunately, we pushed her to 999. So she is still around. She did take up 2 wins, though. I think a big breakout was Acilia with 2 wins this previous week. It was cool to see all of the people posting about their Acilia runs because people have been waiting for that deck to break out a little bit. And then you just have like a whole bunch of decks with 1 win. And notably, Gravy 1-0. Didn't win anything this previous. And was a little, I think, under on top 8 performance show-ups as well when I was looking through kind of the list. So what's the initial thoughts on Azalea being stuck at 999 and Slippy again winning the most?
So one thing is there are still events where Azalea could LL, right? I believe that there are, what is it, like some Battle Hardens and PQ pluses?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So good luck if you're testing Azalea, because that's the thing. But yeah, we get another one in 999. Fino, how do you feel about it?
I hate the LL system so much. I'm glad that I both Singapore and London was not an event that I was going to because both of these were don't know what the card legality is going to be in the air. That's cringe. Like as time goes, the more and more I go, man, I kind of wish we just had normal set rotation.
Yeah, I just think if we actually look at the leaderboard as well, this could totally happen with Kano. Like, what if in the PQ season before Worlds he gets to that like 980 range? It's totally possible. Like, I just think how the system works is
when they
if there's a qualifying.
So slowly, it's. I think the issue is that they inch so slowly. Like if they get all the heroes that get like 30 to 50 points every season, like it's just inevitable that this is going to happen.
So my
Yeah, exactly.
issue with this is the change they made, 2 changes ago, where it rotates every Monday or checks every Monday.
Yeah.
If you make the check on the BNR like it used to be, I'm back to not having a problem. Because then you say, oh, the BNR is after Worlds or something like that, or whatever the major is. Like, we're going to check
I
then,
think,
and then we know what's legal for that event. So there's no, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be practicing.
I think they can also probably just like make exceptions. Like it's not hard to just be like, it's going to be every month. If there's a pro tour that month, it doesn't check until after the pro tour.
I think what'll actually happen is they'll keep doing nothing, because last time with Zen, it was legal. And then if this time with Azalea, it's also legal, they don't like really have a reason to change it. It just creates like cool drama and intrigue about the
I mean,
situation.
we would like to think that LSS doesn't just like hate us and needs us to get hoed once for them to actually change it, right? Like that would, if that's like their actual policy, I would be pretty upset about that.
I'd also just be fine with them saying 2 weeks before nationals, all the heroes are locked in. Like,
yeah,
that's it. It's just 2 weeks before. They seem to be fine with giving only a 2 week, lead out to things. I'd be fine if they just locked decks 2 weeks before. Like, there you go, 2 weeks before. This is what's legal.
How is that any different than saying that it's going to be on the BNR?
It could also just be delayed. That's
because stuff like new might still have made it to this pro tour or something like that rotates out. Something that, like, if you have like a 4 week thing going on, like if we have nationals going and something rotates the first week of nationals, I think it's fine that that's not at the next pro tour. That's 3 weeks away. If you just do like a 2 week before pro tour is lock in,
you don't even
then
have,
you still have that
just,
time.
You would just put it at the end of national. You would just put it at the end of nationals.
Sure,
you don't
but
put it
end
again
of nationals,
Worlds.
but end of nationals would be like today.
No, but
right?
Cody, you don't even have to do it that way. You can just say when heroes LL, they're legal for 2 weeks.
That kind of is confusing messaging.
It defeats the purpose, I think.
No,
I like it during ProQuest seasons, but I think it's fun during ProQuest seasons with things like rotate out the week. I know everyone doesn't agree with this, but like, I think it's fun when you take it this week, it rotates out. Okay, cool. Next week's going to be something new.
It's like fun, except for all the people who just like it's not fun for, because then it's like really terrible.
Yeah, as I said, some people are going to disagree.
It's like a little bit,
I find it enjoyable.
It goes from like a little bit cool for some people, and then it's like devastating, quit the game bad for other people. Like surely,
I think it's entertaining while you're playing that season, because like
you have access
usually if you're on that deck, surely you know that it's like that's a possibility while you're playing that season.
Yeah,
but my problem with that is it wasting potential testing time of us playing a meta that's not going to exist for the major, and this is like actually a good chance for us to get good practice for the major. That's like a small gripe. Like, I'm not going to actually die on that sword and say that that's important, but the knowing what is going to be legal for the event I'm practicing for is a big deal.
Yeah, like, I mean, imagine a very easy scenario where, like, maybe if they had actually made the Ranger cards in this set good, and Azalea had, like, 100 fewer LL points in the past, and she was just, like, the best deck, and she just got, like, 100 extra LL points, or whatever, right? Like, just what if any deck that's, like, the best deck happens here? Like, she wasn't far off. Like, we thought she was very good for some portion. Like, imagine if, like, Syndra was in that spot right now. Like, a week before. Where it's like, okay, there's 2 Battle Hardens and 2 ProQuest Pluses. Like...
Yeah, a way to frame this...
2 different
to make
metas.
it, I think, like, easiest to understand is when they scheduled the BNR, it was clear there was, like, a lot of lead-up before whatever this tournament is, the Pro Tour. And so I usually just call by the name, but I don't know. For some reason, I was getting confused earlier, so I was trying not to throw. The BNR has much lead up time. Imagine they scheduled the BNR for this weekend. That's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
By having Azalea at 999.
Yeah.
Like this weekend, there's an emergency BNR. Death Dealer is banned. Obviously, Marlin sucks, and no one plays the Death Dealer build anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, like you said, Lucas. It's not actually impacting the current game, but effectively, what they're saying is there's actually just a BNR every single weekend. There's a tournament.
Yeah.
Because like you could just ban an entire like suite of cards from the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think we
And
all
I don't think
agree.
anybody would want that for them to schedule a
the
BNR the
death
week before
dealer,
a tournament.
the death dealer example is pretty good too, because like obviously it's not good, but what if there was like a card or two more, and like Death Dealer Marlin was like actually very good? Like,
Yeah.
then it's just like completely unplayable.
Or
Yeah,
what
we
if
all-
Dash like, didn't?
I think
win
we're
this
all in
match?
agreement there.
We
in
all
agreement
agree.
there, Lucas.
Yeah.
No one should get on their flight to Pro Tour and not know if their deck is legal or not.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah,
should
but I
never
think-
happen.
I think if you just frame it in this way, where it's like basically a ban list, because it is a ban list, right? Because cards become not legal for play.
Yeah.
Then
But,
I
a
think
ban list every week is cringe.
that's the thing. That sounds
But-
ridiculous, right?
I think what makes it more cringe, where if this was like a different TCG, you would know a ban list every week. Well, there's something on everyone's radar, probably like this deck is busted. They might hit a card out of this. In FAB, a BNR every week that is a player-driven ban list, like we have direct impact over the ban list, and the company has no direct impact on that, is very different. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, when you frame it like this, it's like it seems insane that we ever had
Yeah,
this.
Dash IE
You just have a
LL.
player-driven ban list every weekend.
No,
It's like
Dash
that
IE
South
is a-
Park episode where they cut off the chicken's head and it runs around on the board. It's that for the ban list every week. Oh, it
Well,
fell on no changes.
We have a good example. Like, so we just had Dash IE LL.
Oh,
like-
Dash IE's broken. Just get it out of here.
Well, I'm saying, but like that deck was good enough to win a nationals, so it's probably was good enough for somebody to take it to a tournament. Like,
That's gone now.
yeah,
Pistol's gone.
yeah, and you would have had no way of knowing that. Like Noah was saying, like there was no indication that this could happen. You have, and like Fino was saying, there's no, you just like you have no idea what's gonna happen. It's
Like, oh, Codex of Frailty is a busted card. Maybe I should not be investing my time into the Codex of Frailty deck because next weekend they're probably going to ban that card. Like,
Yeah.
let's say, for example, in a different TCG. Well, that's just not the case here.
Yeah. I've become so black-pilled from this one conversation. I'm just like, I think LL system is like beyond salvaging.
I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Like, players
Well,
should
I don't-
not have a direct impact over card legality. And as I've mentioned before, there's perverse incentives with that as well.
Of course, I mean, the 999 is a meme.
I think
Surely, in the past, like 3 years that Azalea has been playable, someone has conceded the finals of some local tournament worth 2 points, and she'd be LL'd.
Yeah.
And she could now, like, win the Pro Tour.
I literally did that at last RTN season
To an Azalea?
on Azalea. I literally did that.
There you go, man.
Like,
You're part of the problem.
yes,
you could have just played out a game, and if you had won, then
yes.
Then
Yep.
Azalea would not be legal.
Yeah, but if you want to think about it that way, then you could do the opposite. You could think of all the games that Azalea won because their finals opponent scooped.
Of course, yeah.
So that probably evens out.
yeah, you
But,
well you
but
could.
that means
Who knows if it
correct-
evens out?
Yeah, who
It's
knows, dude?
999, man.
Yeah,
If
that
the
means the
scale
correct thing
flip
isn't
1
winning.
point the other way, it's doomed.
And this is where people enter the conversation with the like maybe points should go to more than just the finalist. But that's a whole other can of worms that we shouldn't get into right now because we have an
Well,
actual
the
topic.
the other thing that you could do is that they could just not release the points until like the end of a season, but that would also have to come with not the emergency banning.
That would just never happen because people talk, like we
Yeah,
live in
yeah.
internet
I
world, like,
mean,
you
we
just
always
know.
think we figure it out, and then it's 999. Fino posted
don't
a meme on Twitter that Azalea
I believed you, Cody.
LL'd,
I believed
and
you,
it's
Cody. I was
999.
like,
like
Cody wouldn't
I-
be wrong.
Yeah,
So
actually- yeah, you
it's
lost
funny.
so much of
It's
my
funny.
trust, bro.
You believed me. I believed the scoring system on the spreadsheet, and so it's just like a train of people, just no one checking. Because like I looked at the spreadsheet and I was like, oh, she's gone, and then so I post about it, and then you just look at me and go, oh, it's gone. You post about it. Everyone read the post. They're like, oh, it's gone.
Can you imagine
Like,
if
it's
somebody
great.
was like gonna play her for the Pro Tour and then they like sold all of their cards?
And that's what it's like having
And then
card
they buy them
legality
all
based
back
on
again and
players.
you see LLs this weekend. They have to sell all their cards again.
Yeah, crack me up.
Anyways,
Anyways, I will say, I think we all agree. I mean, we all don't agree on one thing, I guess. I like the LL system personally
I do too.
as a system. I just think it needs more refinement. I don't like the current way where you can get on an airplane and not know all the decks that are legal for the tournament you're going to. I think that's ridiculous.
I
To me,
like the
only,
leaderboard
The
of
only
the
actual value the only actual value in LL system is like the part where you get a roll of honor and you get to feel cool about contributing with your hero. That's like the only part that keep that, fix the whole rest part of it.
I also just like the heroes eventually go away. Like there's lots of heroes that might not be like the best deck in the game, but they're annoying to have to consider every time. And
I agree.
Kano's one of these. Like I'm just excited for Kano to eventually go away because then I don't have to
full set rotation.
I think it's a nice way to balance the format without having to have full set rotation. If you want to, so I think it's just different philosophies, right? LSS wants FAB to be an eternal game, at least for the near future, but they also want things to rotate out. And the LL system, what it actually is it's a solution to the problem of people who want to have eternal games and also want things to rotate without having a ban list. So it's not exactly that it's like worse than something. It's just like there's a few different ways you can make your game. You can make it eternal. You can make it rotating. If you make it set rotation, right? This is just a way to keep things in and out without having to compromise where you.
We decide when the whole set rotates.
Articulating this horribly, yeah.
It's so ironic that I'm
like Miss Vale. We decided Miss Vale has rotated.
Yeah.
It's so ironic that I'm like, I want set rotation now, because like back in the day, I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I was like, oh, why would I play Magic? I want my cards to be playable forever. And now I'm playing FAB, and that's the case. And I'm just like, get this out of here.
You used to be very anti-rotate. So
I don't think rotation is the answer. I like the fact that the cards are around forever. One of my favorite parts about these games is like back alley breakline is lit now, right?
Yeah.
If we had set rotation, back alley breakline would have never stopped playing.
Yeah.
But like now it's like a cool like splashable thing you can do.
It was reprinted in the Armory deck, so it still would have been legal.
Yeah, but they would have never printed that as its own card.
But they did.
No, but they never would have like put extra commons in the set. I don't think so. Like not to the degree that they are playable. Like they wouldn't have also put Stir the Wildwood in.
Okay, wait. I have a further point. So like, I think they've talked about how they enjoy the journey of discovery to some extent. And if you have set rotation and your policy is like, hey, check out this card from 4 years ago, we're just going to reprint it and tell you that, hey, put it in your deck, as opposed to like the players being able to be like, ooh, look at this card that no one's run before.
Yeah.
I'm going to like put that in as my own, journey of discovery is like the quote that they've said, right? So like, I think you kind of remove that if you just say, here's a prepackaged deck with this old card reprinted because it's not legal anymore, but obviously it's good synergy.
Also deck building's so small that like if we rotated sets, it'd be bad.
You also
I'm just going to keep going.
Let me don't talk.
You also need the journey of discovery so that way things don't get solved too quickly, because otherwise the game just gets consolidated to a very small space very quickly. And it's boring.
Yeah, this game with the current way that, like Cody was saying, the way that sets exist, if we had any sort of rotation and the sets look anything like they look right now, it would just not be a playable game. Like all the decks would just be terrible.
When you register a hero, you can play like less than 1/10 of the card pool because of just like the way that the class and talent system works. Yeah. So having rotation just means they have to make even more like, is it just a year of ninja now and then okay the ninja year rotated? Like I don't know how they would actually like do this.
Yeah, because the thing is in Pokemon and Magic you can splash. In Flesh and Blood you can't splash. I think that's a big deal.
In Pokemon you can literally splash.
Yeah.
Got him.
Indeed.
But you cannot roll dice. That is very important. It's very important not to shoot dice at Pokemon.
He just top 8 at the Pro Tour also in Magic.
I know.
Didn't he just
like
win?
2 in a row?
Yeah.
It was like 2 in a row.
Didn't he win the Pro Tour? Or no, he got second. He got second.
No, he didn't win. Yeah.
He got second.
Yeah, he got screwed.
He's actually local to us. He's like in the New England area.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I used to run into him at Pokemon events.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
He also posted. He posted on Twitter. I saw. He was like, "I went 3-0 at my first One Piece Armory," and one of the comments was like the Grim Reaper going through all the doors, and it was like Magic.
He's on a roll.
Yeah, he should start playing FAB, man.
I'm pretty sure Jimmy tried selling him on FAB.
Your invite's open.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jimmy tried selling him on FAB a few years ago.
Unlucky.
Yeah, I mean,
somebody other than Jimmy. Clearly, didn't work.
Okay, let's talk about our main topic. I think quite often we talk about decks being good or decks being bad, and we'll just say generically like this deck is good, this deck is bad, and I think it's hard for everyone to understand kind of what we mean when we're saying that. So more of the topic, what I wanted to talk about is kind of a little outside the meta. We can talk a little bit about its place in the meta, but I want to go through some of the most popular decks right now, talk about what makes that deck inherently a good deck. What are some things that maybe make that not a good deck, like, or a bad deck, and kind of do that for some of the main popular decks right now.
Basically, like FAB fundamentals for how to evaluate decks and archetypes as a whole.
Yep, and this should be like transferable through like everything, because I know for a lot of people right now they're not going to Singapore, or they're just like there's nothing for them to do. We get a lot of comments quite often in our Discord of like, hey, I'm just practicing for the next cycle right now. Well, how can I spend my time? And I think learning, some additional skills like how to evaluate decks properly, or what people are talking about when they're talking about a deck being good or not, is something that you can take with you, through like a down cycle like this into the next time you're really doing prep. So I did want to start off with undisputably the best deck from Nationals at least towards the end, which is Slippy. It's tied for the most wins out of any other deck, and it was dramatically underplayed compared to everything else. So I think everyone's kind of agreed at this point that Slippy was the big winner from the whole Nationals season.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, kind of give like if someone wants to jump in with a short breakdown of what makes Slippy inherently a good deck.
So I actually haven't played a whole lot of Slippy. I just want to give my perspective first as somebody who hasn't played the deck, just looking at it from the outside, the things that I can see and understand why it would be a strong deck. One of the best things about Slippy that you actually see across a lot of the best decks is that he has a lot of 3-blocks. And this doesn't always necessarily mean like actual 3-blocks, but basically he is able to get value out of his cards very easily. Basically all the cards in his deck block 3 at the very worst. And his hand size is rather flexible, and since his hero ability gives go again, he's basically always able to play all of his cards. So he doesn't really have very many cards or hands that brick or that lose value throughout the game. You look at something like Verdance, and there are quite a few cards where you might just not get good value out of them. Things like Yellow Fruits of the Forest, or Rampant Growth before you're turned on, or like Blue Cadaverous Tilling. Like a lot of these kinds of cards are just kind of weak through a lot of the game, and a lot of the time you're going to block 2 with them, or get no value out of them, or pitch yellow instead of blue, and maybe you'll lose something there. And something like Slippy, where it's primarily red line, it's a bunch of 3-blocks and head jabs, and even his blues are very playable for the most part. It's just very streamlined. His ceiling is maybe not always the highest, but I think you could make a pretty good argument that he has like the highest floor of almost any deck in the game right now, just on offense and defense. And that kind of flexibility in a meta like this, where we have very polarizing, not even very polarizing, we just have very aggressive decks that kind of force you into certain lines. The fact that Slippy is just so flexible and is able to manipulate hand sizes, is able to block out Syndra and also deal with Gravy's allies at the same time. Stuff like that is just like from the outside perspective, without even getting into like cards and specific things. I just see that from Slippy. With the disruption also, obviously, just like being a nice kind of added benefit. We've seen historically disruption be very strong into aggressive formats.
Yeah, you can go like a step above. You could say he has a hero power that it basically resolves every round, essentially, which is like already an advantage. So like when you're like looking at a hero, you're like, how often am I able to take advantage of the thing that gives this hero an advantage? And like gives go again. The one repeatable go again is incredibly powerful in this game. So we already know that that's at least worth 1 or 2 points just for go again, is how they, stamp it on cards. When a card has a go again, they usually take a point away from somewhere else. Being able to take advantage of it every single turn and guarantee it might actually make that worth 2 points. And you can always use the hero power. So that's, an additional advantage. So you're looking at that, you already know that is, built-in value. But 2, I'll go then into the play style, is that it is a deck that asks questions. And it's usually pretty good when a deck can ask your opponent to have to guess. And because of the nature of how you look at the assassin class as a whole, one of their biggest drawbacks has primarily been a lack of go again. So if you look at like original Arachne and you look at all of the other assassin cards, most of these cards have been built off of the impression that this is the only card that you're playing. Or in order to give go again, you need to play another card from your hand that is like a reaction that gives go again. Or you have to hit with a dagger ahead of time, like New had to hit in order to give the blue cards go again. But being able to just take the cards as printed and slap a go again text on it changes the fundamentally how the assassin class plays and gives an additional avenues that are more consistent. If you look at Mario has to mark in order to get this same type of treatment. Yeah, they get a +1 as well. But being able to have that as a kind of breaks the mold of how Assassin has been built since the beginning Assassin came out
And
is something that inherently improves the class a lot.
And what it gives you access to is you don't have to play cards that give go again, and you don't have to pitch cards to give go again, which a lot of the cards historically that do give go again have resource costs. So you get to play this deck with a lot of 3 blocks and not very many resource cards that we've just never seen Assassin be able to do. Like if New maybe has the 3 blocks, but she has to play a bunch of blues. Obviously, she benefited because Mystic cards are broken. But you look at something like Mario that has to play some number of blues, doesn't really want to, has to work for the go again. So he's doing very powerful things, but it's not as inherently smooth as something like Slippy.
Yep. I think the other benefit to it, if we just look at the few resource cards that Slippy does play, so he can operate on 0 resources, like you mentioned, Lucas, him being able to play on various hand sizes as well. He can also operate on various resources as well. Right, you have Calycera if you have 1 resource. You have the Clave if you have like a yellow that you want to pitch, and you have both if you want to use a blue, as well as all the blues can basically convert to like red level value, as well as the yellows with Bonds, Persuasive. People play like blue Double Trouble, right? All those convert at basically red power level, as well as like yellow Shred being worth 3, and Codex obviously. That card could have the Burn Bear pitch, and it would still be one of the best cards in the game. And I think the other aspect of like making a good deck is the capability to lean into like positive variance. This is a topic that like Fino and I have talked about a lot recently, and like wanting it to be an element of every deck that we play moving forward when possible. You have a lot of the positive variance when you play cards like Infiltrate. Say you play Infiltrate, and your opponent is playing like, I don't know, Jarl. They're just like, whatever. He'll probably just hit like some nonsense blue Guardian 4 cost, but you hit like a Sink Blow off the top, and now you can stop an Okanold, for example. It's just like you have a lot of these like positive variance aspects to the deck. Art of Desire Body, like another randomness factor where you're still doing a on rate play. You just have the chance of going above rate for no reason. Similar value with like Codex of Frailty. Sometimes the Frailty token, especially if people are playing like the new Edge of Autumn Ira deck, like the Frailty token can just be worth like full cards sometimes. So I think that aspect of having like positive variance makes it like another linchpin of like stereotype best deck.
Agreed. If you have something you wanted to throw in here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want me to put a pin in this and bring it up later, but this isn't like Slippy specific. I think it's pretty important for like the discussion we're trying to have right now to actually define what makes a good deck. Because if the conversation here is to talk about like what makes a deck good versus what makes a deck good right now, specifically targeting a meta, I think it's really important to define that. Do you mind if I do that now? Kind of like
go ahead.
on that?
Yep. No, that's
so
great.
This topic seemed like it kind of spurred from us saying decks were bad on the podcast, like saying Syndra's bad and such. I say us. I was not a part of this conversation. I was never on the cast during that. And now she's doing really well. And there's decks in the game that are just inherently really good, and decks that target a meta. So when I think of a deck and I say this deck is good, I'm evaluating 2 major factors in it. The power level of what I'm doing and what the deck is capable of on one side of a scale, with how exploitable that deck is on the other. let's give a couple examples. Aurora. I think everyone would agree Aurora was a good deck. Not a deck in a specific meta, just, yeah, this deck's just really good. It was extremely powerful in what it did. Like, we could make a whole list like we just did for Slippy of all the good things that it did. We know what Aurora did. It was really good. And the exploitiveness of that deck was very low. The deck was very good at blocking. It could play small hands. It could play big hands. It ignored a lot of disruption. It just got to do its thing most games.
Interestingly, though, that was primarily because of Flicker Wisp. And so an example I would think of maybe a deck that could lose that would be like Aurora if you ban Flicker Wisp. Then I think it moves a lot more. It doesn't really lose a
now
whole
it's
lot
exploitable.
but it's
now
a
it's
lot more
exploitable.
exploitable. Exactly.
Something
like Florian.
Let's stay with that of Acilio. Acilio does very similar things to Aurora, but it's exploitable. It does probably as powerful things, but it's very susceptible to disruption. It could just not find the pieces, so it has an inconsistency issue, and it just has other small problems of tech cards that can mess it up.
It doesn't have
very
robust of armor. It doesn't block as well.
So it needs to use its armor to do its combo. Therefore, it has to it has to be very careful with how it blocks with its armor.
The other thing that a lot of these kind of overly powerful decks do in Flesh and Blood that can be an issue is that because Flesh and Blood is a game that's played with a very limited amount of life that goes away very quickly. If your deck is kind of balanced around, I can do like 30 damage out of nowhere. If the game is about whether or not you do 30 damage, if your opponent's at 10 versus 20, it doesn't really matter. So something like Acilio can have this issue where he's not always able to grind games out. He just plays on a few turns. If those turns get disrupted, he loses. And these decks often in Flesh and Blood materialize in decks that are weak to disruption, combo decks, and things like that. And those decks historically have not been very good in this game. Where in other games, they might be a little bit better because your combo can kind of just kill from anywhere. But in this game, it's always hard to balance these decks, like Acilio, for example, who is trying to kind of find the thin line between 35ing people and also just playing good value every turn. Because you really have to be able to play some sort of good value every turn in Flesh and Blood. Historically, we really haven't had decks that are broken enough to just not have to do that. Right? Even something like Gravy Bones, still is forced by the confines of his of the meta.
We're going to come back to Gravy.
Yeah, we'll get to that. If we cycle back to what Fino was saying, and you look at Slippy, and you compare what powerful thing is it doing, and what we've just outlined is it's doing very powerful things that inherently also break its own class dynamic, which makes it even more powerful.
I would actually put that. I wouldn't even say he's doing that powerful of things. I would say that given the context of the current card pool, what he's doing is slightly above rate, and it's effective into the other good decks. If you compare this to other decks in the game that have been traditionally, we would just say, yeah, there's a good deck. A Mystic Hero, Aurora, all the Elemental Heroes, a lot of the Illusionists. Sure. They do very fundamentally powerful, broken things. I wouldn't say Slippy's doing anything broken. It's just, this is a good deck. It's good numbers. I'm a bit above rate every turn. I have disruption.
So I think
he's not very exploitable, though.
I think Slippy is actually, I think if you look at it a different way, where you look at decks as having a power level and then having all these criterion that make Flesh and Blood decks strong. And so every deck fits some number of these criterion and then is somewhere on this power scale. I think Slippy is what you get when the power scale is not very high, but he meets all the criterion. He has
you have to be this tall to get on the ride came way down.
Exactly. He has pretty good armor, which is something that we've always seen as important in Flesh and Blood. It doesn't always have to be a lot of armor block, but your equipment and the things that you start and play with. This is kind of also what Cody was talking about earlier with your hero ability. Just all your start and play effects, your hero, your weapon, your equipment, all of these things are very important. And Slippy's kit is pretty strong. He has a lot of 3 blocks, and his resource curve is smooth, which for some decks historically has looked like Redline, and for some decks has looked like Mystic Heroes, where I get to play 30 blues, and they're all really good. And so I think Slippy is we'll get to some other decks later, and we'll explain more of these criteria, but I think the biggest ones in Flesh and Blood historically have been ability to use your cards consistently on offense and defense, your resource curve being smooth, whether that's red line or very blue heavy, just having a lot of consistency with your resource base. We've seen decks struggle that are trying to play like 12 to 20 blues and draw like one a turn. Those decks don't always do very well. So the heroes that can more naturally play these smooth resource curves have historically been very strong. And then we've also always just seen that decks that have reasonable rates and disruption are insane. Like just get a huge buff because of people not playing around them properly. Right? A lot of the times people make plays they're like not even really allowed to do based on how their opponents have played, but they don't realize that. Right? So disruption we've always seen in Flesh and Blood because of how complicated the game is and because of how small the edges are, and because disruption is one of the only things in the game that can scale so easily. It's a lot easier to scale disruption against your opponent than it is to actually have a 5-card hand. Right? Slippy doesn't need to keep 5 cards to scale his hand. He just needs to hit bonds and make your hand not scale anymore. That's all he has to do to be powerful. And we've seen that be the case before with every disruptive deck. Winter's Wail is not broken because it's just like Frostbites are worth 1 point. Winter's Wail is broken because Frostbites are worth like a card, like half the time against a lot of these decks. And so I think it's disruption, resource curve, and the fact that he can use his cards consistently all mean that since there's no decks right now that fit all those criterion smoothly and are powerful enough to make up for it, are powerful enough in addition, I think he just is what is winning right now. Although I do think that there are other decks in the game that will overtake him as we see those powerful decks be built in ways where they can actually meet these criteria.
I was going to say, so how do we exploit that deck? Like, is the exploitation of Slippy just something needs to be able to go over the top of?
I think that's also a strength. I think that's a strength that Slippy has. I think you could articulate that as another criterion just being flexibility. Just like the ability to not be exploited, I think is similar in practice to flexibility. Something like Aurora, it's not that she can necessarily like always play on different hand sizes, but she's hard to exploit because she's just pretty flexible. She can attack with most of her cards. She can use most of her cards. If she has to, she can block and still get a reasonable amount of value. And then she gets enough value on offense that even if she has to defend a little, it's okay.
Yeah, that's why I was going to cycle back. I was going to say, according to what Fino said as what makes a deck really good, Slippy is hard to exploit. The decks that exploit him the easiest are like Mario and New in a way. And Mario is a pretty big exploit, but that's gone down a little bit since the Mario builds have changed. This is like what has allowed Slippy to actually be playable, because he used to show up to a tournament, run into a New or Mario, instantly lose, and you can never top 8 with it. But now that those aren't floating around as much, that exploitability factor has dropped pretty dramatically, because for most decks, it's just playing on like a normal FAB access that isn't a large exploitable point.
So how would you exploit Slippy?
You would exploit it by going
above
extreme either direction.
Yeah.
So you would have to go extreme either direction. Your extreme damage or extreme defense, because Slippy's kind of in the middle and it does the consistent thing every round. It does ask a lot of questions. If you're able to guess correctly or know have a lot of experience against the deck, you can make better guesses and not give them points where they probably need them. But if you're going either not playing the game, you're either like not playing FAB, they're trying to play FAB. So if you don't play FAB, that's one way to get around it. Or if you're on either extreme end, I think you get around it as well.
You look at
it's like one of the reasons like
Verdance, for example.
Vincent's good into the deck because Vincent plays around how the game is supposed to be played. It's putting something in the bin, playing through, could still block pretty profitably.
So like theoretically, Acilio, if Acilio wasn't exploitable by disruption, like I'm not gonna play the game, and then suddenly I'm gonna play all of the game and kill you.
The deck that does that as well, it can be something like Verdance, where you can exploit the fact that Slippy can't be that aggressive. So you can kind of drag the game out into this situation where you are able to resolve things that are more powerful than he can do. Things like Rampant Growth, resolving all your fellings, resolving plows, stuff like that. I think it's a good example of like a matchup where Verdance's kit just lines up into Slippy. I think Verdance is a good example of a deck that can exploit Slippy, where she doesn't, his disruption doesn't scale very well against her. And he's not able to exploit her main weakness which is proactive decks that are able to not let her maximize her value.
So Slippy is doing powerful things. He's above rate in what he's doing and being disruptive and does a lot of good things. And not enough decks in the game exploit what he's doing, while on the other hand, he is actually exploiting a lot of decks currently in the meta, and that's what's making him really strong.
I think the decks that exploit Slippy are going to be the decks that are just powerful enough to that have power to go over what Slippy's doing, because it's not actually that hard to do better numbers than Slippy. The problem is that while he's disrupting you, it can be hard. So decks that are powerful yet resilient. So like something like Jarl comes to mind as a hero that should, at least just in my head, should probably be pretty good into Slippy, given that you are doing powerful things like Oaken Old, blowing up your equipment, giving you frostbites, but you're not really weak to disruption the same way. And also, Slippy doesn't have
like the things the plays you just talked about are the things that are weak to disruption. But like surely, like fusing an Oaken Old is like something you got to keep a big hand for.
I think if you compare that
playing out of Frozen, or
I think if you compare that to a lot of the other things in the game that are of equal power, it's a lot easier to resolve through disruption.
Yep. You know what the funny part is? Like,
progs you, and you have like Oaken Old set. Like, I think Jarl probably is better equipped to deal with that than other heroes. Also, just it's not just Oaken Old, right? Like Felling, Plow, Summit.
Sure. No. Sure. In theory, a lot of this makes sense. And then like you sit down, you play against Slippy, and like Slippy's still an assassin with the assassin cards, and the assassin cards are just like way overvalue. So they're just like codexing you sometimes still, and then like progging you and bondsing you. They're still doing all the things. And it's just like, you're just like, yeah, like in theory, you're only doing 0 for 3 go again into maybe 6 damage afterwards. But the other things printed on these cards are really strong. Like, it's just like, and that's just like really hard to deal with every single round and never make a mistake. Like,
I have
it's like
two
really
heuristics.
difficult.
I have 2 heuristics for if a deck is good. Are you casting your pitch cards, or is my deck all Majestics? Assassin sometimes checks both of these boxes.
Yeah, you also just like naturally have like one of the best end games, right? Like if your opponent is ever like sub 10, they just always have to fear randomly dying. You have like Take Up the Mantle is just like I have like this mopey little 0 for 1, but is it actually just 10 damage, you're dead?
Yep. So yeah, that's I think another aspect that makes the deck pretty strong. Okay, let's go on to the next one. We can talk about Gravy now. I'll let Fino start here, if you would like. What makes Gravy powerful, or maybe a bad deck, if you want to take it that route?
So I think Gravy is probably really high on both of these spectrums. I think Gravy does probably some of the best things in the game right now. Like the rate on what he's doing is insane. The raw card advantage he's able to generate. Just the power level of what he's doing is insane. It feels like a Mystic hero a lot of the time. But you're way more exploitable than other heroes are. And you have inconsistencies in your deck, and honestly, deck's incredibly difficult to play. But just people can decide to put hate cards in their deck, like putting Poppers in your deck for Prism. They can just put Grave Keepings.
You exploit yourself by sucking at Gravy Bones.
I mean, there's also that. But people can just like put Grave Keepings in their deck, or invert Existence. Like, there's all these failure points where your deck just falls apart on you.
Dude, that's OP.
I lost to that. I
can imagine. Yeah, that's broken.
Turn 0, I went Give No Quarter with a Chum and a Sawbones in my grave, and got both of them. I was like, okay, I guess I lose now. And then his second invert was on whatever the thing that blows up my arsenal if I lost life. But I only have AB1, so I blocked 3 cards, and then he inverted me, got my arsenal, got my guy I was going to play that turn. Okay, guess I lose. But like, you have failure points like this. You get exploited also by on hits, like Mask of Momentum and things like that. Raw aggression because your hand doesn't block sometimes. You also get exploited by if you have to defend on hits, and now your small hands are really shit. Like, oh, like what do I do with this 1 card tipple hand? Like nothing. I just hold this L. Sorry, no, go ahead.
It's okay, man. I was just gonna make a nice comment about how great LSS designs some archetypes like that have board state. It's almost like there's always crazy swings one way or another. I don't know why that just keeps happening. Anyways, you could proceed.
I think Gravy's a pretty. I would stick by my my description earlier. He's clearly very powerful. He's able to play with his pitch cards, which is also very strong. Right? His resource curve and his resource base is very strong. Um, but he's not very flexible. Right? He's able to theoretically play on different hand sizes, but in practice, like when your opponent CNCs you, you got to make a lot of awkward decisions a lot of the time. Uh, you kind of can't always play the game on your own terms. You're forced to, but your opponent gets a lot of ability to kind of do what they want, which is what flexibility normally affords you. Um, and it's not that he can't always use all of his cards, but he cannot always use them efficiently. He does have a lot of hands that just kind of don't line up and just don't kind of work.
Ooh,
That is an issue that absolutely can be smoothed out in deck building, though. Noah, you have a
yes, you've made me realize we missed this before. But a key element of what makes a good deck versus a bad deck in FAB is your game plan repeatable from game to game. I think like with Slippy, most of the games can play out like you said. You have the agency; they can play out pretty similarly. You're playing threes. Sometimes you're pumping by threes, and sometimes you're having like the funny turns with the Codex or the Justin Nick type stuff. But your games are playing out in a pretty similar fashion. Whereas the Gravy games or like Verdance games, for example, I think can play out in like very different fashions based on the draw sequence of like when do you get your hero power online, which allies do you see specifically early, are you
I
able
don't
to
think
like get gold early?
I don't
I
think
don't
that's
agree with
always
that
been the
necessarily.
case, but I do. I don't think
Okay,
that's always
disagree.
been the case, but I do think that is a big indication. So I think there are examples that this not being true, but I agree that primarily, historically, the strongest decks we've seen have had
Slippy
this.
was
You
one of
look
them.
at like every ice hero, every earth hero that was strong, every lightning hero, every Aria. I mean, because those talents are just unreasonably consistent. Um, like all of those heroes have always had this for the most part. We have had some heroes like, say, Lexi as potential outliers, where you're based on power cards. You do have this consistent bow, but a lot of the times the way that things line up is quite different game to game. But you look at like Dromai. I think the reason that Enigma wasn't more broken was because she did not have this. Her games were all very different. And that was something she struggled with during her whole lifetime. She was otherwise pretty broken. She was just weak because you couldn't always Miragai CNC them every single game. Like, whatever. But I do think it is a strong thing to have on your side, historically speaking.
I just
Yeah,
yeah. Please argue for me.
I
Cody.
want to argue for Noah here. I agree. I think the current way that people are approaching Gravy amplifies what Noah is saying,
Mhm.
which where you do not get to every game play the same way. People are trying to take the deck and make it do that because sometimes you just draw 3 allies and like the beginning of the game, like lose. You just like turn 0, draw 3 allies. They just pump their hand into you, and you're just like infinitely down. And it's like this is not a way a consistent a game goes. Like Slippy never has that issue. That's like never a thing that happens, and it always gets to do its attack and do another thing almost every single time. So I think the point stands is like people are trying to take that negative of Gravy, make it so it doesn't do that anymore to like alleviate that problem. And that is, a massive problem was where the games play out differently when you get it, when you
So
play Gravy.
So what I was going to say is, I think the beginning of your games are like that, but once your engine gets online, it
Mhm.
stops having as much of that problem. And
Yeah,
then what
but
Lucas was
games
saying,
don't always last to your engine getting online.
sure, uh,
Like
but
that's the problem, right? Is that like your engine doesn't always like that. That is a weakness. Is the like
I agree,
the anemic hands aren't just anemic because like they'll eventually be fine. Like you don't get to play all 60 cards.
sure. But you do have a lot of the Dromai thing where, yes, I may be playing a lot of different allies that are a different power level, but all my guys are pretty good. So like you do end up just like getting to do your thing most of the time.
on the matchup.
I
Playing
think
as
also
Mer-
it's so different than Dromai because Dromai you had infinite dragons that were 0 and 1 cost. Like that's the primary like dragon structure. Whereas you have such a varying cost structure of your allies in Gravy
well, the
that
other
like
thing is that like
your hands just don't line up with playing them.
all the
Always.
dragons are also just like guys that swing for like 1 to 4 and have like so excepting Ashwings, they're all just like things that have like 2 to 4 health, attack for like 2 to 4, and do like an extra thing that's worth a little bit. Like they're all like pretty close, but like Whaler Humperdinck versus Limpet is so vastly like you can't like if the way to win a matchup is Sawbones. Like it's really hard to replace Sawbones. It's really hard to replace Humperdinck. It's really hard. Like if Limpet is like your one of the best cards in the matchup, like that's really hard.
So the other thing that makes you a bit more consistent, though, of like getting to do what you're trying to do, is, and this is something that I would also say goes in that category of what makes a deck good. The amount of cards that you're seeing. And this is a part of what made Lexi so good. You have so much card velocity in the deck. So your ability to do repeatable game plans is improved by the raw card velocity that you have in the deck. You're very frequently seeing 5 to 7 cards a turn in Gravy, plus you have tutors, plus you can sandbag cards in your graveyard for later.
I would actually make the argument that in Flesh and Blood, it's a huge downside that has to be counteracted. And we've always seen it counteracted by decks that, because all the decks that can just see a million cards need very specific things. Like look at something like Gravy. Like the reason he needs to see so many cards is, or excuse me, the reason he gets to see so many cards is because when he doesn't do very specific things, he's not very good. I think in Flesh and Blood, generally speaking, card draw that's on rate is bad. Like a card that's just like Gorganian Tome. Like the card's terrible. Like that all you got, it should be math-wise played in like every deck in every format where anybody attacks for 1. But it's not, right? Because that's not how things actually play out. And so I think in Flesh and Blood, it's actually quite a weakness to have to jump through hoops in order to do your stuff. And that's why stuff like Gravy is so broken. Like if Swiftwater Sloop just always did its thing, if Rigor Mortis just like always gets to be played and always gets to be swung like on rate with the exact amount of resources you want, and you always get like your curve always works out, then the deck would just be broken because inherently the math on all of the cards is just unreasonable. But I think one of his biggest weaknesses, this is also why he's quite inflexible, is that for his turns to actually play out, he has to jump through all these hoops. He has to draw all these cards, hope that they do the thing. Like the amount of times where you're playing Gravy and you're like, well, pitch an ally for a gold. If it's a blue, I conquer you. If it's an ally, I don't know, like swing Anka or something. Like it's kind of, I actually think it materializes quite a weakness, and it just serves to increase variance. Something like Slippy, like these Slippy never draws cards. Like, because Slippy's cards just all already play. But none of Gravy's cards play by themselves. They all have to interact with each other, and you have to jump through hoops and attain goals, which is why he's so broken. But it's also, I think, why he's balanced.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to talk about why Gravy is good, since we've talked a lot about why Gravy is bad. So some of the things that make Gravy really good that I don't hear it talked about as often, it gets to resolve 2 of probably some of the strongest cards in the entire game, which is Swell, and it also gets to play Tipple. Both these cards are incredibly powerful. The reason it gets to play these cards, the reason they make these cards powerful is because it is a deck that has cards that
Saltwater Swell sucks.
Can play out of the graveyard. Swell's amazing. Like,
bro, imagine Belittle, but you get gold.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
Imagine Belittle, but you just have gold in play when you draw the blue Minnowism from your deck.
Like, the amount of times I just see somebody just like Compass. Okay, draw a card. Swell. Ally. Oh, it's okay. The card. It's so good when it hits, and then when it hits, it's like 2 points above rate. Like it's not even that good. Like it's this inconsistent, like kind of poopy piece in your deck that you have to play because you don't have.
It's a
1-for-3.
It's a 1-for-3 go again that gains 3 mana.
Yeah, that's 2 points above rate. It's good. Like it's a good card. It's above rate most of the time. Sometimes it's 1 point below rate. But if you just like ignore mathematics and pretend that like every time you compass it's a blue, and every time you don't compass the top card of your deck is a blue, then the card's excellent. Like if you just look at the decks where they're playing like 30, these decks are playing like 30 blues. They're like, let's say like 35 blues, right? Or let's just say 30 to make it easy. I'll say the math is nicer. It's like 50%.
33 is the amount that they normally play. I have the spreadsheet.
Sure. But let's say for my head's sake that it's 50%, right? When you compass, there's a 50% chance it's a blue. Okay, so 50% of the time already, it's like it's a 1-for-6 go again. And then, you have, let's say it's like a 50% chance that if you miss, you play the swell, it hits. So like playing it on the turn you draw it, 75% of the time it's a 1 for 6 go again. 25% of the time it's a 1 for 3 go again. So it's what? It's 4 for 15 with go again, and it costs 4 cards. That's not that good.
But this assumes that anytime you draw it, you are obliged to immediately play it.
I know you can arsenal it, and
you can block with
that's
it.
what I was going to get to next, is that obviously
And you can just block with it.
Maybe I can continue to talk about the good parts of the deck before you guys continue to talk about the bad parts of the deck.
You're in here and you're like, I think one of the things that makes Gravy strong is this like kind of shitter card that's like a little bit better than filler.
It is able to play that card very profitably, and I'm going to get there. One, because it has a game state deck that has an extended hand by having playable cards that come out of the graveyard. So these pile up as essentially additional arsenal slots. This is one of the power of the deck. Inherently, playing a board-based deck disqualifies decks from being able to play into you profitably because they have to deal with allies or whatever else is on the board. This is an inherent ability for Gravy. But Gravy's secondary ability is that it creates gold. While creating gold, it's putting cards typically into the graveyard that you get to play later that would typically need to be as a cost. So like Tipple, for example, is a 1 for 3, 1 for whatever you want it to be, 1 for 2, 1 for 1, whichever Tipple you're playing. You discard a yellow card that you can play later. So it's not a discard. You're just like putting it in your arsenal is essentially what you're thinking about it. In this case, you have to get it there anyway. So it's helping with that. It creates a gold. It also draws a card. This is a replacement. Then you draw off of the gold that you created.
Tipple's OP. That's why we play the yellow one. We're not out here playing yellow.
Correct.
Swell.
Swell is very similar in the way that it plays with a red, where it flips off the top, gives you extra dollars that you can then cash in with your gold that this deck creates. One of the powers of the deck is it creates a lot of gold naturally by its equipment and also the cards that are in the deck. And it gets to, for free, cash in these gold pieces by running things like Swell and Tipple and other things that cost $1 that lets you draw additional cards. If you can make those additional cards worth things, that is where the power in the deck comes from. I don't think the deck is played that way enough that it should be, but continually turning these cards into ways to exploit the gold that you create is where a lot of the power of Gravy comes from. And then it is a board state deck that has massive guys that swing and have to be dealt with immediately. And when they're not dealt with, they can snowball. And that is inherently Gravy's, strong points in my mind.
Yeah, I think
this will also help solve a problem that the deck has sometimes, where you just like make a shitload of gold and you're like, I can't really profitably use this.
I think this is another example where it's like the Swell is only so much better than a blue some of the time, and sometimes it's just worse than blue. Like if you have these gold, like you could just pitch a blue into Swell or into the gold where you would have played a Swell, and it's pretty similar. You are definitely a few points worse, but you don't have to take the risk. So I'm not making the argument that Swell is a bad card. Obviously, I kind of just like shit on it for a while. But I was just contesting that it's like one of the things that makes Gravy strong. I think that card is just like kind of a role player, and I think it actually shows why Gravy has this problem of seeing too many cards and having too many variance points, where you kind of like you win the games you win by way too much because you're designed actually pretty well to be balanced when you don't do things very well. And so the games that you lose are just like quite often like you just get kind of hosed, and then the games that you win are just like overkill a lot of the time, if that makes sense. And I think that the fact that he has so much positive and negative variance just ends up, I don't think it means it's like a bad deck. I just think it's a weakness coming from the perspective
exploitable.
It's exploitable, exactly.
But the thing is, it's not really exploitable. It's exploitable to me implies that your opponent has agency in the matter, whereas the exploitation is more of just like you getting shit on by your own deck.
Yeah.
No, the exploitation is you making me block when I didn't want to, because my hand doesn't really function if I have to block.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's a problem of your hand. Like there aren't actually really disruptions outside of something like I'm saying that's a problem of your hand drawing bad because of the variance of your deck.
Yeah, I think
the actual disruptive cards are like not really disruptions if you don't have an arsenal. Like Blanche is basically the only card that's like a real like Blanche Humble type effects. But those are like niche cards that are very rarely played. The more commonly played disruptions are like if I'm just picking one card out of your hand with like Prognosis or Mark of the Black Widow type of effect, then if your deck is like, quote unquote good deck, then you should be flexible enough to play through one card being taken out of your hand. And I think that's more of like the bad variance of your own deck, drawing in such a way where you need all your cards.
I think Gravy's inflexibility materializes as a weakness in that when you draw your hands, you are normally just kind of forced to play them. And because you have so much variance, sometimes you are forced to play cards and it doesn't work out. Like your rate isn't very good. And in Flesh and Blood, what that means is you just take a bunch of damage. And so if that happens a few times, it doesn't matter if the variance evens out. Even in the course of a small game, like the fact that he is not able to block super well, he's not really able to force your opponent to kill allies if you aren't fast enough. Like he can, I think, have this issue a lot of the time where his inability to block and his inability, not even just because his cards don't block, but just because it makes the most sense most of the time. Like Chart the High Seas, Portside Exchange. Like you could block with these cards, but you can't really because you have all these allies that you have to get rid of and deal with. And so he just has to play his whole hand. And the cards are set up where Gravy can't really be built in a way where, Gravy is not currently built in a way where you always want to use your whole hand and it always works out because there's just always failure points with every situation. Like if you add more reds, you can just always draw more reds. If you add more blues, you could just always kind of be more anemic. I'm not saying it's not something that will be fixed through deck building, but
so if you were to summarize, would you say Gravy falls in the very trivialized category of good deck or bad deck?
I think he is a good deck with a huge weakness. So right now I would say that he's too unexplored for me to be sure. If I am a year from now and my experience with Gravy is the same as it is now, I would say it's a bad deck. Like so far my experience is that it's bad, but it's so powerful and its issues seem so solvable in deck building that
with 12s.
Yeah, I think that's good. Like it might solve some of the problems. Like maybe just attacking for 3 go again is like proactive enough that it helps your blue.
When you go 1 for 3 go again, draw a card, 1 for 3 go again, draw a card, 1 for 3 go again, swoop, for 1 for 6. Oh, that was fun. Like
it definitely
does. That all adds up into a great
definitely
turn.
Does that stuff broken. The problem is that you could also just like draw cards in not a good way where you just like draw a bunch of reds. But
you draw all the swells before you actually made the gold.
Yeah, you just like gold into ally and then you gold into ally and then you don't.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. Actually, you haven't played the deck enough, Lucas. That's like not really the problem. The problem is more of just like you draw all the gold payoffs, but you like haven't made the gold yet. And then
like I draw my ally.
That is the worst part of the deck is not having enough gold for your gold.
Just like another.
I think it's like I lost a game recently where I drew all my allies really early, and then I drew all my gold generators, and now they had all this stack of gold. I'm like, we're allies.
Yeah,
because I had to pitch them all.
Doomed. Yeah, I would say that Gravy in practice actually kind of misses out on a lot of the advantages of being able to play your blues. I actually think I'm kind of convincing myself that Gravy's just a really powerful bad deck because I actually don't think he maximizes the strength of being able to play his resource cards as well as other heroes because they're so inflexible. Like with Icelander, like something like I don't know, like Ice Bolt, right? It's like it can block 3. It's a reasonable rate card. It can give frostbites. It can scale the disruption on your opponent's side. And then you can also use it as a finisher. So it does all these different things. But in Gravy, it kind of feels like a lot of the times your cards can't really block. Not that they can't. Like, I think also Gravy can probably block.
Let's take some real world references of cards. If we look at like Michael Hamilton's blue base in his deck, right? Mm-hmm. You have Avast Yi. If you don't have a pirate ally, unplayable card. Back alley breakline, unplayable card. Golden Tipple, no ally, unplayable card.
Mm-hmm.
Portside, no ally, unplayable card. Sunken Treasure, block card, unplayable card. Tip the Barkeep, you can argue, like semi-unplayable if you don't have allies or way to use the rum. So you're like only looking at about half the resource base is actually playable. The other half is just like situationally can be good. They're not just like generically.
And even a lot of those cards are like still kind of awkward sometimes. Like they don't.
That's I was describing the awkward cards. Yeah. I was skipping over the ones like Chart and all that are always.
Well, but you look at stuff like Chart, Swell, like these are still variance cards. Like even if they're strong a lot of the time, like they are still leaning into variance. And so I think that the fact that gravy decks currently are built in a way where you're basically just supposed to play your whole hand every turn means that you don't actually gain the biggest advantage of having a smooth resource base, which is flexibility. Like Slippy doesn't have very many resource cards, but the resource cards he does have can still attack and block and pitch consistently, and it works with his game plan. Gravy's cards can like be played or pitched or blocked with, but a lot of the time it doesn't really work with the game plan. He's a hero that has very low armor, and he takes a while to set up, and those are huge weaknesses. And the way he compensates for them is that his cards and resolving his cards to their full effect is so strong, especially if the game goes long. If you get to resolve a lot of your cards, you're really good. You look at things like Azalea and Prism, heroes that have less armor or less life even have this issue a lot of the time.
You're basically just saying that Gravy is like supercharged Levia. He's like the Levia of Ethan's dreams, where like you draw all the cards in the right order and then you resolve them and you blow your opponent up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, true. You instead of your cards dealing you damage, they just sit there and then are above rate at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem is that you just can't always maximize that. And so I think in Gravy, it's actually I would make the argument that Gravy is fundamentally does not check the boxes of most good Flesh and
That's
Blood
what I'm saying. Like the way you're describing him is basically just Levia, which we would all say is a bad deck, but he just has way better cards.
Yeah, he's just like unreal because all of like when your stuff works out and your cards do the thing that they're supposed to do and you use all your resources, he's just like the best deck in the game. It's not close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just Levia, confirmed.
True. I think the deck's very good. Even after
I'm
all
glad
of
we
those
come to a
complaints.
consensus.
I think the deck's busted.
Yeah. I also think the deck's busted, to be fair. The deck's unreasonable. Like, why are all these cards so
it's busted, but it's a bad deck. It's like, I don't know. I think it's actually a good representation of like, it's a quote-unquote bad deck, but just does busted stuff, and you can get absolutely...
Yeah, the thing is, ultimately, the power scale is still like the most important thing. Like, if the shit's just broken, it doesn't matter if it's... Like, if a hero, like, does 800 damage to you, like, 60% of the time, it's still pretty fucking broken. Yeah,
you even have turns on Zen where you just like, oh shit, my hand is just like actually 4 damage. But I dealt 60 damage the next turn, so it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just not what the game's about.
Kano was also just a bad deck, right? Like, Kano is unplayable, terrible bad deck, but you also just die. It doesn't actually matter because he can just do busted stuff. See, this is why I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We haven't made enough Yu-Gi-Oh! References on this podcast. Is to get away from these kind of decks that are just like terrible decks and are like fundamentally bad, but just have such like busted draw sequences and play patterns that like win you the game. I don't know. It's a little bit annoying that this is kind of becoming a recurring theme in FAB of like, we have so many Acilios, Dash IOs, now Gravy, like Levia can kind of fit in this camp too. Just like these Gravy's not fringe because a lot of people play them, but like these decks that are quote unquote bad, but just like have these busted mechanics that totally explode the opponent. I really hate that. To be fair,
I think that's just part of the game. Like that's just how it's balanced.
I know. I dislike that it's part of the game.
Sure. Well, it's just like that's where the high variance comes in, right? Like that's what decks need to compensate for, and that's like normally what power is. I
just wish that archetype wasn't a thing in this game. Like that archetype of them designing
like really
decks
high variance.
that are like high variance and can just like lose to themselves or just like smoke.
I think that based on card design over the past couple of years, it seems to be an intent to be added to the game because the game was kind of boring before. Mm-hmm. Once we moved into like the 2.0 era of FAB, everything felt kind of samey and mathy. Remember how everyone bitched during Outsiders and Bright Lights of just like everything being kind of just meh, boring shit?
Yeah, it's just like Withering Shot, Inertia Shot, Infecting Shot, Skybound Shot.
And then they did Falcon Wing.
Falcon Wing.
Oh. And then they did the Clash, and they were like, okay, let's try doing this to spice up the variance of the game. And people didn't like that either.
Vigor, Clash of Agility, Test of Might, Test of
I think this is their way of making the game feel more card gamey. Because the FAB didn't feel very card gamey for a long time. Shut up.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Heavy Hitters was so bad. Literally all of the cards did the same thing. Like every card did, like there were like 0 unique effects at common and rare.
What's wrong with that?
No, there was like 0 unique effects
over your opponent every turn, and then you win.
It's boring. People don't want to play that game.
Oh, people don't know what they
Okay.
want, man.
Next hero. Let's talk about Syndra. Kind of the reason that we
Head
Just
disagree
jab.
with everybody because I
Head
think Syndra's a good
jab.
deck.
Head jab.
Okay, why do you think Syndra is inherently a good deck?
I think Syndra's a good. So
Head jab.
I think I think she might have more issues than I'm going to say. I think I'm going to disagree with some of your points, but I could see myself arriving at.
I've said nothing. Already disagree, dude. This is a new record. You can't disagree before we said anything.
I'm thinking,
You're planning on disagreeing.
well, yeah,
no matter
because
what
I know Cody's going to say it's a bad deck. No, I know what he's going to say. I think I might arrive at the same conclusion, but we're gonna be in this journey together.
Okay.
What a Runaways podcast.
My instinct is that Syndra is a good deck. Her resource curve is great, right? It's pretty perfect. Obviously, just being all reds with a relatively smooth way to play your 1-cost cards in Best Flick is quite strong. But I think the biggest issue that she has is that
Whoa, you're on the positive side. Why are we issuing?
Yeah, you basically gave no positives.
No,
You gave
I'll
no
give more
positives.
positives.
You said she
I'll give
plays
more
cards
positives.
with a 0. All right.
She played cards?
I can give more positives. I think she plays into your
Can we get
opponent.
Dan back?
I think she plays into very well. I think it's very easy to make mistakes against Syndra. And although I don't think she has very many high variance plays on her own side in terms of just like broken draws, I think she has pretty high variance plays by exploiting your opponent. I think that's what she's very good at. Like if your opponent just draws 2/2 blocks and just like can't really like block Mask Momentum, you have this ability. It's not necessarily your deck, but you still have a lot of high variance plays. Playing against Syndra, it like a lot of the games just feel like if your deck messes with you, you're like not really able to cope with it. And then also I think she has the advantage of being able to deal with different strategies in often the same way, but never really sacrificing anything. Like she doesn't have to play into disruptive decks vastly different. Like she scales well enough that into basically everybody she can do the same thing. And so even though sometimes that thing isn't good enough, I think you look at other heroes that have to switch their strategy, it can make deck building quite hard. And when you're not able to have as many just like linear game plans throughout different matchups, I think you're going to end up with things like Gravy that you just are kind of pushed all over the place and you're not able to maximize things. I think Syndra is one of the only heroes that's actually happy. Like she would be happy if everybody had to play 70 cards. And I think that's a really big strength because we do have a card limit. And I think that's one of the things that isn't talked about enough.
Okay.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
just
No,
so irrelevant,
what?
it's unreal.
No. Do you want to? You've played.
You
Syndra.
just get to.
Do you want to cover
You
some
just get to
Syndra
prepare
strengths?
for the whole meta
Just-
every tournament. Like you just don't have to. Like you just get to prepare for every single deck at every single
One sec.
tournament.
So I want to, yeah. As you had predicted, I will directly disagree with one thing you said.
Mhm.
You said that you kind of said it in passing because I feel like you knew it wasn't that strong of a point, that you can play on multiple hand sizes. Sure, she can physically put the cards on the board of multiple hand sizes. But if you're playing a 2-card hand of Syndra, what are you doing?
No, so what
Right.
I mean is that I think the disruption in the game right now. I
If a
think
disruption takes 1 card from your hand, you now have a 3-card hand.
I think three.
It's not
I think
a-
three.
it's-
I think three
it's
is
not
what
a
you're
roll
doing.
around.
3?
It's not Aurora where you're like, I don't give a shit about my hand size, whatever.
Sure.
I'll get my 6 on defense, 4 on offense instead of card. I don't care. That's not what the game. Like Aurora's like, whatever, man. I don't. See, I agree.
Yeah.
Don't you bully the kid so hard as turn his camera
Okay,
off.
I will quickly say.
We
I
might
will
control
quickly
the
say
dog,
before
man.
we
The dog-
before we
No, it's not the dog's.
before we spend 30 minutes disagreeing with him, I will say I think that Syndra is like on these two things of exploit versus power level. I would say it's very similar power level to Slippy. Like you're doing probably slightly more damage on average per round. You ask some difficult questions out of your opponent. You technically have armor, but it's kind of
You
fake
don't have armor.
sometimes.
Yeah, you don't.
It's fake. Slippy armor also kind of fake. You've got like a smidgen of armor. But your exploitation side is lower than Slippy is. You're more susceptible to on hits. You're more susceptible to opponents' tech cards. I believe that was what you were trying to say with the 70 card thing. Like they can choose to play cards that are good into you, but they have a size
Yeah, it
limitation.
depends on the meta. I think Syndra. I guess. Okay, no, I think you guys are talking me into. I think Syndra is a bad deck. Is probably a bad deck that is able to adapt.
Dude, why did we need the preamble if you knew we were going to disagree and then you knew
No,
we were going to agree with it?
I think I was thinking
It's content,
of it as,
it's
like, a general
content.
thing. I think it depends a little bit on the format, though. I would say it's more of a strength and diverse format.
Sure.
Also, people can just play Guardian. Like,
Yeah,
people can just choose to submit Victor to the event.
Yeah,
and just like
making a deck that you have to asterisk the deck where it's only good in a certain format, that just means it's already a bad deck.
So no, I was saying I
It
think
means
that
it's
strength of
it means
hers
it's
is only
exploitable.
relevant in a certain format. Like I think that strength of hers only really materializes in a really diverse format.
I just think it like
I
Syndra
think I can be
fundamental of-
convinced. Like I said at the start of this argument, I
agree.
think I'm very easily convinced. So I think you
because
guys
like,
have me on the
okay,
Syndra
let's
sucks.
say it's a diverse format. Okay, I agree with you there.
Dude, you don't have to
let's say
convince me.
it's-
Syndra sucks.
Let's say it's not a diverse format.
You guys
Well,
are
then that would mean
geniuses.
Syndra rises to the top, and then people just choose to play decks that poop on her.
Yeah.
Therefore, it would be materialized even faster that she's exploitable because it's not diverse, and people would just play the thing that shits on her.
Mm. Yeah, Syndra sucks.
Okay, let me
It's my hot.
let me talk a little bit about Syndra. So, Syndra's actual strength is that if you do not engage in the game with Syndra, Syndra wins the game. It's very similar to the type of strength that like Dio has, where Syndra's power comes from the fact that it will every round do the exact same thing. It'll play go again, and to hopefully something at the finisher, but not always. But most of the time it will. And then it'll say, hey, can I draw an extra card from my helmet here? And you'll say no. And then it'll say, I'm going to flick my dagger. And then you have to tell me no again, or I'll draw a card from here. And because inherently drawing a card is worth 3 points off of the mask, essentially it makes up for the fact that most of the attacks that they're throwing are 0 for 3s. Because if a deck was only built off of head jabs, the deck would be absolute garbage, unplayable, like garbage. Just 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 3.
All your cards are worth 3. Slippies are just worth 3 on defense.
Slippies are worth 5 half the time because of their on hits and their
I don't disagree, but like I think if you're saying that like
you cannot play a deck that literally is all head jabs. You will lose.
I agree, but like, that's why Syndra decks play a bunch of cards that aren't head jabs, because head jabs are like her engine. That's why Slippy.
That is my point. Drawing a card off the mask makes up for the fact that you have so many head jabs in your deck. If all of you're doing is going 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 3 with no draw card, this is inherently underrate and you're not going to win games playing this way.
You're also not just playing all head jabs.
That's what
correct. But a lot of their cards are head jabs. And the fact that you have a mask that draws a card makes up for all of these head jabs, because every time you play a head jab, it is -1 point.
We're ramping.
I think that the better way to articulate it is, or not even the better way to. I would say that my argument is that
certainly not a better way to articulate it. I'll tell you that.
You definitely articulated it perfectly. I would say that I think it's because she has mask that she is built. I think it's less of an inherent weakness. I think it's more.
I literally said it's a strength of the deck is that it's able to play a very consistent pattern, and the negative of usually playing this very consistent head jab pattern is that they're not worth playing.
No, but the fact
but she can actually play them profitably.
I'm saying I think the deck would be built differently. Like you could build the deck without Mask of Momentum, and then
you could build it with links.
You would solve it. You would solve the problem differently. I'm not saying that it's like
you run Spreading Flames,
but I think it's not like the fact that she's all head jabs. I think is something that you can make up for elsewhere. Like if you don't have Mask of Momentum, you can play more stuff like Sink Below, Loyalty Beyond the Grave, more 3-blocks. And
sure, but she is not played that way, and that is not the current deck.
Currently,
so,
yes.
If you want to go out and create that deck and then popularize it and give it actual results, then sweet. But until then, that is just not how the deck is played.
I think that's it's the same thing with Gravy though. Like Gravy decks currently are built to not really solve the problems well at all.
You have to remember that Syndra has a hero power. It says, in order to get back your daggers, you need 3 Draconic Chain Links.
Mm-hmm.
If you are incapable of producing 3 Draconic Chain Links...
Your 2-card hands suck, I know.
But I'm taking it back, man.
Okay.
I'm taking it back to when Majin Bey was still tuned into the podcast, because he says he only watches the first half.
Oh, I see.
When Cody said, or maybe Fino said, I don't even remember, dude. Someone said, if you're triggering your hero power every turn, you're winning. So if you're not going 3 wide with Draconic Chain Links and
Mhm.
triggering your hero power,
Mhm.
then you're just like sacking value every single turn.
I think
I
that was
can buy
Cody talking about Slippy.
Okay,
Yes.
boom, Cody, you get the credit.
I said
+1, gold
its
star.
ability to trigger its hero power every
Yeah.
turn is how it wins the
So
game.
that's why you have
This
to
is
play
very-
Syndra in that style of just like Draconic cards, which means your card pool is also like pretty small. It's a
Mhm.
huge drawback when you draw non-Draconic cards in your deck because then you're just not triggering your hero power.
Mhm.
Even if they're worth 4 because it's Rabble or Cut Through, for example, you're like losing value in other places or adding inconsistency. So
I can get behind this.
it's a bad deck.
Cool.
There you go. We
Yeah,
stopped
I agree.
there.
I agree with this conclusion.
Sure. My point is that on the positive side, if you do not, again, we have to talk about what actually makes the deck. Why are people choosing to play this deck outside of the meta, or why do people think the deck is inherently good? These are the reasons. The mask allowing you to draw a card, it forcing you to engage in its own gameplay. If you ignore the deck will run you over, which is a powerful aspect of it. The deck is incredibly consistent. It does the same thing every single round. And these are the good aspects of the deck. Like you mentioned, the poor aspects, the struggle of the deck it cannot block due to the draconic card pool of being 2 costs. You inherently cannot block with your cards. They're worth more playing on offense. If your opponent does engage with the game with you and stops you from drawing off your mask, a majority of your hands are below rate. So you just like can't block and your attacks were below rate, which is like unfortunate. You must resolve your chain enders several times throughout the game in order to have a profitable win game. Without doing that, you will lose almost every game that you play. So that is like one of those aspects where you go into exploitability or randomness of its own deck. The deck while incredibly consistent, because of most of the cards do the same thing. If you do not draw the end pieces and are able to make them like turn them on to be playable, the deck is below rate the entire
Or draw them
every
all
card that
together.
you resolve. Yeah, or you draw them all together. And because of this, its power level is significantly lower than I think people think it is. People think the deck is incredibly powerful, but like inherently the power level of this deck is like very low.
But it's
in my
targeting
mind.
a meta, though.
But the reason it has good results right now is it's pretty good at targeting what the meta was like a couple weeks ago.
Good into
It's also
Earth,
really easy
good
to
into
play.
Gravy.
Yeah.
Good into bad players that just like don't know how to block mask. So you just like get a free win or 2
Yeah,
from that.
at US Nats, yeah. That probably makes sense.
Well, according to Dan, it'd be at any European Nats also, right?
Yeah, wait.
His
Yeah,
words, not mine.
yeah, that is true that Syndra converted really bad at US Nats, right? But did well in other places.
Yeah.
That is curious, huh?
Maybe Dan was onto something. Maybe Mario always was the best deck.
Okay. I will say the addition to the new dagger has made the deck's power level inherently go up because it has the ability to have free block every round if the dagger is relevant in that matchup.
Wait, I thought we
Because of the
lost new.
spell.
I thought we lost new daggers.
No. We have
All right.
new daggers.
You think we got time for those kind of jokes, dude? We got important topics here.
We'll talk about one more deck and then we'll go into podcast questions because it's a Pheno episode, so it has to be extra long.
No,
If
you say the word Verdance, we're gonna be here for 3 hours.
I'm confident that Lucas used the most amount of screen time this entire pod.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna start a chess clock, and then we're just gonna turn his mic off after he uses too much time.
No, you can't tell. You can't make me tell the people what I actually think.
Yeah,
dude, Verdance is terrible.
Yeah,
that deck's a terrible deck, dude. Its resource curve is awful. Like all of its resource cards suck. She can't really deal with hit triggers very well. Her hands are not very flexible. Like her game plan is not really repeatable. Dude, she sucks.
Her armor is dubious.
Yeah, her armor sucks. Like she just blows people out because her cards are unreal. If you want to know why she is good though, it's first of all because she just gets to play some of the most broken cards in the game. Like just individually, like some of her cards are quite unreachable. Like just normal stuff: felling, plow, rampant growth. Like when it goes crazy, Striders, yeah, Storm Striders. Barkskin, also kind of an unsung card, but that card is just completely unreasonable. Like that card is ridiculous. That card gets like 10 value a game quite easily in a lot of matchups. So I guess actually maybe her armor's gas. But yeah, obviously your arms and your hat are more dubious. But I think her biggest strength is that the reason she plays into Slippy so well is that she's just hard to play into, and she exploits other decks very well. When other decks are unable to use their whole hand or are unable to be proactive, she exploits them very well because it's really hard to register Sink Below against her. Like all of these different ways to normally deal with value and to counteract value, things like defense reactions or arcane or Oasis Respite against like scaling arcane damage, or Poison Well against life gain. Like you have to deal with all of these things at the same time. Can you guys hear my dogs?
I can hear your dog, but I'm just thinking about you saying that it's like really hard to play Sink Below, and the only thing I can picture is like, here's how I play Sink Below. I just put it in my deck. And then
No.
There we go. Oh, it's so hard. It was so hard to take it out of my sideboard, put it into my deck, and then present it to the Verdance. Oh, it's so difficult to play Sink Below.
I'm just saying, like the way that she gets value is very hard to interact with, right? If I play like a Sigil of Solace into a Rampant Growth.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I just couldn't get that picture out of my head. Oh no, it's so difficult.
I think what she does better than any other hero in the game is close games. And I think that's why she is so strong. Because she basically gets to say, we're going to trade all game, right? You can play your power cards. And when you play your power cards, I'm going to make the game go long. I'm going to try and eke out more value. But then when I draw my power cards, like it's over. Like if you draw your power cards, I can just play like Sink Below, Felling. Obviously, like, Sink Below, block 3, Felling. Like I can deal with your stuff and still have a reasonable turn. But if you're playing against Verdance and they go like Sigil, Fruits, Rampant Growth, Plume back Rampant Growth, it's like, it's only so much value, but what is that? It's I gain 7 life, and then I'm doing what? So 3, 5, 7, so 14, 18 damage if my hero ability's on. With other decks, it's like, okay, I do a 4-card 18, deal with it. With Verdance, it's like, my life goes up by 7, and yours goes down by 8, and maybe you can block 3 of this. And you just can't, like, interact with her at all in that space. And then I'm going to kill you with Striders next turn because you also can't deal with that. So I think
I think you're missing like 2 inherent strengths of the deck.
Yeah, it's
like,
not the only strength.
Take it. To like take it back. It has mixed damage. Mixed damage in this aspect makes your opponent have to make a decision on what they actually want to protect against. When you're normally playing against mixed damage decks, you can just like switch one of your pieces out for like 1 piece of null rune, because most of the mixed damage decks are dealing like rune chants, for example. So you can now choose to defend on both accesses. However, the Verdance deck has most of the time has a pretty equal mix of like spells and attacks that are relevant, that are going to be resolved. Some lean more in one way than the other, and you kind of have to make that guess at the beginning. What that means is that you have to take away some of the pieces of your deck that you intended to play in order to make a decision on how you're going to block against Verdance. Just that decision alone is inherently powerful to the deck. Also, healing is delayed blocking. And so it allows you to, instead of, maybe you can't block on that turn, you can block on a later turn by just healing your health. And this is like a very powerful thing about healing in this game specifically, is that like essentially if you heal later in the game to make up for not blocking on one turn, that healing allowed you to hold more cards in your hand on that previous turn and get value out of it. And then you made up for that on a later turn.
It's
which is like an incredibly powerful way to try and play the game. On top of the fact that it has a combo finish, which is very powerful in a deck that can extend the game because it has healing, which is essentially delayed blocking.
Well, it's everybody's
that healing
favorite
thing was what made Prism good. That healing thing is what made OG Prism strong too. Before you'd like give up a lot of life and then you just get that all back with Spectral Shields or them killing Spectra.
It's everybody's favorite word, tempo, where like the only time that it actually matters in Flesh and Blood is when you're forced to lose value because you have to block, whether you're forced to block or because you'll like go down in a certain life threshold. It's just like the only thing that actually like matters in terms of tempo in the game is just who's able to force their opponent to block first. And not even just first, just forcing your opponent to make blocks that are inoptimal based on their life total so that they lose value. And healing is a way where if you're able to... That's a huge spider.
You lost tempo to that spider. You just
Yeah,
gave
dude,
up
that
tempo
thing is
talking.
huge. What the hell?
Have we
Okay.
we've talked about it a lot.
I don't even
Trevor.
know what
Have
I was
we
saying,
ever?
guys.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. You passed priority. Have we ever actually talked about tempo on the podcast? I
No,
don't
we're not
think I've
doing
ever
it. We're
listened
not
to an
doing it right
episode.
now.
No. But
We
like
have
that's like a
podcast
future
questions
topic.
to
There's bigger
I think that should-
spiders, dude. We got bigger problems than
That's huge.
discussing tempo.
Stick the dog on him.
Okay, so
Wait, show it to the camera at least. Give us some good content. Yeah. No.
So
just hold the spider in your hand. Come on.
yeah, just pick it up.
Yeah, just grab it.
No, here, I'll show you guys.
You could become Spider-Man live in front of 10,000 people.
Oh, what a segue.
Well, it's dead now. But here it is. You guys can't really see it.
No, because
Your phone is not
you can't hold a phone up to another screen.
Yeah, it's
Screen
not
to a
forward.
screen is not going to work. Anyway, so some of the negatives on Verdance before we get off this topic. I think, or mentioned before, power level is relatively high. What it's actually doing in the game when it does its thing is very high. Its exploitability, I think, is higher than most people think it is. People maybe haven't figured out how to do that yet. But I think like blocking, for example, I'm going to say it again. If you block the attacks that Verdance tries to swing at you, it deals so much less damage
Yeah.
that it can't close out the game.
Yeah.
It's like such a big deal. Just block the felling. Like it's like felling, lose a card. Just put 2 cards in front of it. Just don't give them the free 6 damage. Like I don't understand.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's like the deck doesn't have a weapon. It can't actually all the time resolve the full game. Like its damage in deck is sometimes incredibly low. It's like it is actually a negative for the deck.
Yep. One more thing. Sorry, I actually have one positive to say about Verdance. I'm surprised no one's mentioned this yet. It's the advantage of like wizards just have weird ass cards.
Yeah.
Like Scour is a card. Mental Block is a card. These are just like effects that other classes don't really get. Of like the Earth card that like tucks your arsenal and prevents 5. Like she just has access to unique tools as part of a blue base that you could include. You have Rewind as a card. Like you just have some like wacky cards that I think are inherently something that could be a hallmark of a good deck. But I just think that they're a little bit too like incongruous with Verdance's primary game plan, that they don't really fit into the deck as it is now. But
Some of them do though. Like she does have a lot of good tech cards. Like you look at things that she's played before, like Evergreen, Mental Block's a good example.
Mhm.
Like Scour is another good example. It's like Arcane Twinning. Like obviously that's just like a random comment, but I think Evergreen, like I said, was a good example. Things like Findall's Fighting Spirit. There's just like a bunch of stuff that like randomly works in her kit.
Mhm.
So she does have quite a diverse array of things that you can play towards.
You also get a lot of equity, similar to like an assassin or an illusionist, as a wizard, of being very technical to play against, and your opponent having a lot of chances to make mistakes, and just you get free value out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like your opponent saying no blocks when you attack with a fouling.
Or just like not knowing the proper thresholds to go to at the end of the game for striders.
Yeah.
True. I will say a big negative is that card order does matter quite often in fast matchups, because getting your hero ability turned on is kind of a big deal some of the time, and you are losing out on a lot of value when that doesn't happen.
Yeah, she is a hero that inherently is built to go long and gets most value when you go long. So when you go short, you either have to increase variance or adjust your strategy so that you're not as powerful, but you're more consistent. You look at like Caleb's deck cutting Rampant Growth and playing Crown of Providence into most aggro decks versus my deck just like playing at US Nats, just like playing Plume and saying, fuck it, I'll turn on, and just like building my deck to turn on. Those I think are a good example of like Verdance having to compensate for what Cody's talking about.
But then you kind of like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, where you're like, okay, I'm going to make my like end game worse by cutting combo pieces to make my early game better. But then now you're like not necessarily favored if the game goes super long against a deck that can be very defensive against you.
I think it's a big weakness that she has into stuff like Slippy, for example, that can do both. Right? Like if you play a very long game, he can race you down. But if you play like a short game, then he has if you're built to play a short game, he has the potential to go long and maybe like fatigue you. Those are things that Slippy can potentially try and do in the matchup.
Yeah, that's what makes it seem like she's also given the stamp of bad,
Mm-hmm.
even though she can be doing.
I think the reason that she's strong is actually her card pool is just so wide, and she's like just has broken stuff. So like, if you're able, I think what it is that Verdance is able to be built in a way that's good for like every tournament. I think Verdance is like a hero, like local to local wide meta is maybe not always the best, but for every tournament, it feels like there's a way to adapt Verdance that is at least reasonable.
I think one of the biggest things with her is a lot of the things that exploited her have left the meta. She gets exploited by decks being incredibly broken. Just like there's no way I get to the point in the game that I can take over and turn that corner with my hero power because they just do the broken thing and I just lose.
Yeah,
like
Zen and Enigma are the best examples.
Just MST leaving, huge buff for her.
Yeah.
Aurora leaving, huge buff for her.
Yep.
Like all these funny decks that do the broken things is the thing that punishes her.
Yeah, I agree. I think her biggest weakness is strong proactive decks, and we just don't have very many of those right now.
And pilot issue. IMO. I think the deck is incredibly difficult to play.
I think
the highest level.
We talk about. I wonder if we'll reach a point in FAB where we stop bringing that up as a thing. Every single hero.
Every hero is that. Yeah, I think it's. I think pilot issue. I think the bigger thing that you can actually say is deck building tournament to tournament is like.
That's actually a good point to put a bow on the topic. Look at the decks that were like at the top of our list. Very proactive decks that it's hard to fuck up what you're doing. Like, I'm not going to fuck up. I'm not going to fuck up going head jab, head jab, head jab. Like, my deck does one thing. Mm-hmm. If I need to block, I'll block. If I don't, I just play my hand. It just does the thing. Gravy, a lot of pilot error can happen because the deck's complicated. Verdance, you don't have the macro game plans. You make one mistake, it falls apart.
Yeah. I think every deck in Flesh and Blood is very hard to play. I think in general it doesn't make sense to compare because I feel like when we compare how hard decks are to play, people tend to think that like means that players' skill and like decks, like a deck is better because it's harder to play. Like I feel like people get a little bit caught up, but I do think that Verdance is like easier to just lose a game with out of nowhere.
Yes, sure. People definitely do get caught up in that. But I think that's like actually a really valuable point. There is value in simplicity. There is tangible value that you get in that. These are long tournaments. Playing extremely complicated decks that have failure points on your side of you making a mistake is a very valid reason to not play that deck choice. This is one of the reasons that I've changed a lot of my fatigue strategies over time because at Charlotte, I had an incredibly complicated anti-fatigue strategy in Dromai, and that cost me my win in it. I went, never again am I doing a strategy like that. I'm going to go one head from now on. This shit matters because we're human. We can't play perfect for fucking 14 rounds.
It matters to different degrees for different people, but I do agree with the concept.
Yeah, I mean, when I switched from playing all the other decks I'd been playing to playing Florian for like the last pro class, it was like a thing I was constantly saying was just like, I feel like I'm playing like a god right now because I'm like making no mistakes because like the deck was so simple to play. And I was like used to playing like Enigma and then like mid-range Zen, which is just like a decision nightmare half the time. And it was just like, chain. And like all of a sudden I'm just playing like Florian. That's one was really powerful at the time, but two was very simple to play like and I was just like, this is like a superhero ability. Like if I could play more decks like this that are like this powerful, that are like this simple to play, I just felt like a god when I went to tournaments because I'm just like, I'm playing perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna sit down to this game and I'm gonna play perfect. It was great. I could think about like a bunch of other things in the game than just like how to play my deck properly, right? And I think that's like I agree with Fino saying that should not be understated. It's one of the reasons I think Slippy's really good. It's easy to play, but it's really powerful at the same time.
And it does open up mental space for other things, like you were saying. Like maybe now you can focus more on tracking their pitch because you just don't have the mental bandwidth for everything. Because not everyone has infinite mental bandwidth to do these things. Not everyone's Hamilton, you know what I mean?
Not everybody has infinite mental bandwidth to never do podcast questions.
We're getting there. It's soon. Okay. as soon as in next.
Yeah.
So next is podcast
Verdance-
questions. These are asked by
Verdance is
premium
poopy.
members of our Metafy. If you would like to be able to ask questions on the podcast, if you would like to sign up for our Gilded tier, which now gets 3 deck lists published with sideboards every single month. This month is Gravy, Syndra, and Verdance. Those will be up on Metafy that you can have access to. And a discount code from our sponsor, Gilded Raven Games. Feel free to join in the link below. First question here is going to be from Wardo77. Asks, are you all going to be at the world premiere in Montreal? Yes.
I believe so.
I will not be, but I hope you guys have fun.
You smell.
I mean, for most of us, it's like, well, I guess
Like
you
a
guys might be
drive for you
driving,
guys,
but
yeah.
I have to fly still. It's like a 2-hour flight, but it's like a 6-7 hour drive, and it's like I'm just gonna fly, I guess. Like, that's too far. There Lev FX asks, who on the podcast is int 3 and who is int 5?
This is a crazy question to ask us to answer.
Both are Lucas.
Yeah,
Both
they
are
gave me,
Lucas.
Like, yeah.
Lucas is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. He's like normally int 5, but then he starts talking and it drops down to int 3. So he's int 5 when it's not his turn, and when it's his turn, he's int 3.
I can buy this answer. No, I just go from all scheming and conniving, and then once I start talking, I just start scratching my head. Like,
So he has to block with 2 cards on their turn, so that way he can go into his turn with 3 cards. He can be like int 5 on their turn, and then boom.
Well,
int 3.
you draw up at the end of your turn, so that you never get benefit out of the int 5. So everyone just thinks he's an idiot.
Oh no.
Tom Kerr asks, you've been talking a lot about how event-winning decks are often poorly built. What distinguishes a well-built deck from
Bro,
a
why did you censor badly?
built one? Oh, I just said poorly because that made more sense
Okay.
to me.
This is all you, Cody.
Wait, no,
I'm
I
kidding.
have thoughts here. You
I have
go
thoughts as
first,
well,
though.
but go ahead. Go first.
I go
Go
first?
first,
Okay.
Noah. Yeah.
I think one thing is people often put cards in their deck without actually considering what they're taking out to make their deck make sense after putting in these tech cards.
Mhm.
Like, for example, you're like, okay, I'm playing against Assassin. Give me 6 D-Reacts. And then not actually thinking, oh, how am I taking out cards from my deck such that I don't ruin my primary game plan? I don't ruin my resource curve. I don't, like, make it such that my deck is actually worse, even though I have these cards that I think should be good in a matchup. Another thing about badly built decks is somewhat of like misunderstanding of what you want to be doing throughout a game in terms of your resources. Often, like, badly built decks will have resource cards that they basically say, okay, I'm gonna play these cards as my resource cards. And like Warmonger's Diplomacy is a good example. People just like play this card, and often it may not actually have synergy with their deck. But it's a blue 3 block. My deck like wants blues to be able to play sometimes. It may have 0 text in like a lot of given matchups in a format, but it just like its floor is good as a blue 3 block in their mind. So it's like, okay, this just slots into my resource base in every single matchup. I don't have to think about it. I just like put this in there. That was kind of 2 in 1 of like people don't put enough resource cards in their decks, or they put too much, as well as they just like have a resource base that's cards that are oftentimes going to be titanium baubles rather than actually taking the time to consider like the most optimal cards for a format that double as resource cards and castable cards.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll also say I agree with all of that. I was just going to say, like, the ratios are wrong. So like just mathematically the ratios are incorrect is like really easy to look at it. And to take it a step further, like when they sideboard, they're not preserving their ratios in the sideboarding process. So the deck ends up just being like a Luxac version into that matchup. Like when you have ratios, then you can like expect certain outcomes over the course of X amount of games. That's like a way to make consistency happen. But like, yeah, sometimes you just kind of Luxac matches, and like the new mirror is an example for this. Like in the new mirror, you used to just take up a bunch of blues out. You'd both just be running like not nearly enough blues for the deck to function, and you just like wing it. Like that's just how it's going to be. That's like but people are doing that into like every matchup that they put sideboard notes into, and that's just like not a functional way to build a deck successfully. But the game is at a point where like that stuff just doesn't matter yet. You could just get away with those things mattering. I think that was our point in the previous podcast, was just like, you look at decks that are all 3-ofs, like the entire deck is just 3-ofs all the way down the list, and you're just like, there's no world where this is the optimal build of the deck. Like there's just, it almost never is the optimal build of a deck just 3-ofs of everything that are on the deck list.
Yeah,
this is just like
Flesh and Blood cards are too similar for 3-ofs to make sense. Like all,
and so like
do mostly the same thing. You need some diversity, man.
And then we use the example a lot of like PTLA, where the 2 Hatchet Dory decks that made top 8 didn't have Dawnblade for the Dromai matchup, and like they both just like struggled in the Dromai, and it was just, and that's just like a inherently deck build issue, that if they had the Dawnblade,
I think you could make an argument that was a
lot of the time.
deck difference, because we also had like
No, they all agreed that they were supposed to run it. They just didn't think about it.
I think part of it was I didn't test enough to know how good it was, but we also just had like a lot of other stuff for Dromai. But yeah, sure.
So there's those are some examples I guess you can look at.
Yeah, the other, also some decks just like have bad cards and bad plans.
Yeah,
so they're just bad. Like you can just like win with like Dash IE LL this week. Like you can just win with decks that are not as good as some of the other decks. Like Flesh and Blood.
It's a card game.
Yeah.
And we're just like not at the point where like skill overcomes this currently. Like this is just how it is. Skill overcomes any deck building, and even the most perfectly built deck is not going to get you there in the current way that the game is played. Skill just infinitely trumps this right now than the deck build.
One other thing, I never like looked at someone's deck and been like, that's built wrong for like a topping deck, but I know this is a mistake that people frequently make, of when you're adding cards to your deck that are like a sideboard card for specific matchups, make sure you're considering like what your role is in the matchup and what kind of cards that you need to win those types of matchups. Like maybe you add a D-React to your deck for that matchup, but blocking isn't actually how you win that matchup. Just being proactive is how you win that matchup. So that's like the wrong type of card to add to your deck.
Yeah, I think that's also the case with equipment too, where like people will just like sub equipment in their deck or in a matchup that doesn't actually relate to their role in the matchup. Like they're subbing defensive equipment to fridge on hits, when in reality they want like proactive equipment to be able to convert hands better and have better rate on offense.
Like a Syndra that played like AB, play like AB shoes in Syndra into Verdance. Like you're never gonna use that. Like that's not what you're doing. Like you're just gonna attack every turn. That's how you win.
Yeah. I mean, as the same example, it's just like you look at a build and it has like 3 null rune in it for like Kano, and you're like, but you never beat Kano. Like why do you have these in your deck? Like this is just wrong. Like it's just wrong to even prep for this deck, because like you can't win the matchup even with the 3 AB.
Yeah. Also, people having like 0 poppers for Prism when Prism is played is like another thing. People just like sack a matchup kind of for no reason when they have sideboard slots dedicated to other heroes. Like you said, maybe they just don't play the null rune but play the poppers, and that changes the matchup a lot. Or like have some kind of plan into more represented decks that you have a better chance into.
Yep. Hemlock Ale asks, how do you bounce back after having poor results at an event you felt prepared for going into it?
Okay. Someone else answer this question, because every week we've been getting at least one of these questions where I'm like, damn, I really want to know the answer. Please tell me.
I mean, the answer is simple. It's like, look at why did you have that poor result? Were the games actually variance? Did you play poorly? Were you unable to focus? Was your testing actually incorrect? Was your deck actually bad? Like you have to be able to take an honest reason of why things went wrong. And sometimes the answer will be you got unlucky. Like that will just be the answer at some times. But then it's like, how much of that was me getting unlucky? And then how much of that was like, I did something wrong? And most of the time you can find something at the event that you might have done poorly with. There are just some events though. I'm looking at London for me personally. Besides, like things just go wrong sometimes. And you can just have that experience. That can just happen sometimes. But how do you bounce back? You just look at it logically.
this kind of works out naturally based on like how they schedule stuff. But I usually just end up taking a break after every event for like a few weeks, and just sometimes longer than that if I'm like really not feeling great about the game. But like how things are spaced out, it usually allows me to just do that anyways. Like if I'm actually upset, I'll just take a break for a bit, play some other games. If Most of the time though, just like whatever, I don't derive my worth as a human being from how well I did at that event, so I'm not like that upset about it. It's just I gotta do better about it. Just okay, like you said, what did I do wrong in my prep? How can I get better for next time?
Yeah, when the issue is me, that's when it hurts. There's when you're just like, I just like punted. Like, and there's been tournaments where it's just like, oh, I've punted, and those are the ones that feel bad. IMO. But they're easy to recover from because you're like, I just won't do that next time.
I know you don't experience this, Lucas, but do you have any thoughts for us peasants?
I mean, it's happened for me before, for sure.
Amsterdam.
Like,
If you
yeah.
don't have thoughts, you don't have to share anything. It's
No,
fine.
I think maybe so. I think Amsterdam was a good example of me not prepping well. So the lesson I learned from that was that I should probably prep better. I would say LA, I was pretty prepared for, and I had a really terrible weekend. And I think it's kind of what Cody said. I think for some people it's going to be hard to kind of detach yourself and be able to think about it logically. So I would if you can't do that naturally, I would try to achieve that as a goal. That would be what I'm searching for. So I would try different strategies, like maybe what Fino's talking about, where you just remove yourself from the situation. Maybe for some people, like forcing yourself to look at things logically might help. Like making sure that you prepare for this ahead of time by taking notes and being able to hold yourself accountable. I know one thing for a lot of people is they get emotional, they convince themselves that they get unlucky. You all have met these people. You viewer, you have met these people yourself. They're everywhere.
You might be that person.
You probably are. But like just kind of force yourself to think about things logically. Nobody has ever gotten better because they thought they got unlucky. That's just like it's not a useful mentality. So like
I will say, if you do take a break like me, before you take the break, if you plan on reevaluating things after the break of what you did wrong, make sure you write down some notes and shit so that way you have something to come back to, so you don't just like erase all that shit from your brain.
Yeah, I think it's a good example from what was said is I have gone through my London experience quite a lot, and I got the most unlucky I've ever gotten in my life at any tournament I've ever been to. But my takeaway from that was not that like, boo-hoo, I got unlucky. It's I want to play a deck that has an ability to take advantage of positive variance. Was like, that was still my takeaway from it. Was like, I realized I got incredibly unlucky, and if just a couple things break differently, I feel way different about that tournament. But I still came out of that like, okay, I don't want to repeat this. I want to play a deck that can get lucky.
Yeah, your deck didn't give you that ability, and that's why we play swells now.
Correct.
But yeah, you want to employ the scientific method. You want to do lots of experiments, which means you have to like play in more tournaments. I get the idea of like, you take some time to reflect, but you're taking the time to reflect because you're like, okay, I have another tournament in 3 months from now.
Yeah.
You have to like play a lot of tournaments because you're just not going to win all of them. And a lot can mean different things to different people, but I just mean in general, like the best way to bounce back is be like, okay, I'm going to double down on my prep, or I'm going to do at least one thing differently that I feel could be an improvement, and then try it on the next event and see if it changes something, and just kind of have this like staying very objective approach of like, okay, this didn't work, let me try this other thing. I'm sure if you try enough methods, you will succeed at least one event, and then you can lose all your objectivity and be like, subjectively, I topped this tournament, therefore I'm good, and then just ride that wave and keep going with that.
You got to be careful with that, because if you double down like that and you continue to not have success, you're going to burn out. But I think a really important thing here is to not focus so much on your results. I think focusing on your results is an incredibly bad mindset.
I think, we just have to clarify what results mean. To me, results is like, do I feel good with my performance after the tournament? That's like the result of the tournament to me is like, did I play the best I could? Did I have the proper metagame preparation? Was my list good? Did I execute well? Did I make like plays that I know I'm capable of making?
Was I
If
surprised by anything I ran into?
Yeah, exactly. That's my results. Not like did I get 58th or third. Obviously, it's nice to get that the smaller number, but like the results, I think most importantly should be like your internal reflection after the event of did you play and prepare as well as you could have.
That's my favorite result ever is still my Nats top four from a couple years ago, because I felt like I had a really good deck that was really well crafted. I predicted the meta properly. I executed my game plans properly, and like I felt like I just played so well, even if that's maybe not as big of a finish as some other finishes I've had. Though, like those are the kinds of things that like I hold in my highest regard, or like when I execute the tournament perfectly. Like I've had tournaments where I've not done it. Like London, for example, is another example for me where like things didn't go my way, but I feel excellent about that tournament. Like I feel like I prepared very well and I executed well, and just you know some baubles didn't break my way, and that's okay.
Stump asks, I'm new to the game and I have been playing for around 4 months. I started with Dash.io, but the deck often feels like a slot machine with little agency over the outcome of the game. It doesn't feel like the best choice for actually practicing the fundamentals of the game. What class/hero would you recommend I use for more fundamental practice?
Heavy hitters. I would play either or all of these: Kasai, KO, or Victor. I think heroes that operate on the attacking and blocking axis while having late game things that matter, care about resource management, care about their pitch a little bit, utilize weapons. They utilize all of the important core aspects of the game. So they help teach you a lot of the fundamentals while still teaching you some other stuff like caring about macro game planning when you're playing Kasai, caring about thinking about the top of your deck and of what it could be when you're playing KO to map out your turns better, and just like how to I don't know what you do as Victor.
Victor has a similar thing as Victor has a similar thing as KO, where when you start blocking, things could change, so you have to kind of prepare for multiple outcomes. He just like he bonds himself like every turn.
I just don't know if it's like super important to learn, I guess, what we would consider like fundamentals as much anymore. It helps in certain aspects, but it's just like it used to be way more important previously than it is currently. I think if you can do turn math, I think those type of things I think are worth a lot more. I do agree that probably playing Dio is not the best start. It's like when I see people like pick up Prism or pick up Dio as like their first deck, and I'm like, if you're having fun, great, because that's like step one is have fun with the game. But like this is not really a good deck to like learn how to play the game with. Like it's going to be a struggle. Like you don't pick up like Wizard as like your first deck. It's like
it's just like going to give you bad habits.
Yeah, but like I would play something like, because you want them to have success. You don't want them to just like grind out. So like I do think Kasai is a good choice because it does actually have good matchups. I think Slippy is a really good deck, I think, to play right now if you want to like learn at least some fundamentals with extras. I think I would go with like Slippy personally is what I would recommend that you play, because you'll still have success with the deck, and you'll see why forcing your opponent to block is like important as well.
I think Slippy is
other ways as well.
By far the best hero to play if you want to learn the fundamentals, because firstly, he's like the one who plays all the cards. Like you're actively swinging your weapon sometimes, in addition to playing attack actions, in addition to playing attack reactions and defense reactions. You have armor that's used defensively in the case of like a Crown of Providence. You have armor that's used offensively in the case of the Flick Knives. You have cards that are high variance, when we're going to get into one of these questions later, but you have cards that are like high variance when you want to go for high variance of like, I'm going to go for this bonds play. If they have reacts, it screws me. But if not, I feel like this is my way back in the game. So I think it teaches you a lot of those fundamentals of knowing when to use your cards for the 3 on defense or use them for the potential to have more on offense, as well as just literally using every card type that's in the game. I think gets you a solid fundamental. It's just unfortunate that you're going to have to, cut off one of your arms to buy it, but you can test it online first.
Yeah, I was just looking at current prices.
Ask your locals if you can proxy or borrow stuff. Yeah, exactly, I do honestly think Slippy is like one of the best like first decks for someone, because you're also going to have experience. Like you're also going to win some games, which is important. It's important to win some games when you're
exactly. You're going to win games, and you're going to. I think it's really, I guess, easy is maybe too strongly worded, but it's usually pretty apparent when you've lost a turn cycle, where you could have realized, okay, I could have played this like turn cycle of their turn, my turn differently, had a different outcome, just because of the flexibility of your cards being able to always block for 3 and play on different hand sizes. So I think that's like a good like way to level up your basic FAB fundamentals, is just like, okay, I can see how this turn cycle could have gone differently.
Cool. Dustin asks, in a close game, what is the biggest factor considered when choosing to take a riskier line that may win or lose the game versus taking a conservative line that doesn't necessarily swing the game state?
It's two things. It's how likely the thing is to do the thing, and then it's how likely do you think you are to win. And like in a very simple sense, like let's say it's perfectly like even. Like let's say your decision is I can roll scab skins, right? And it's like, if I hit a 4, I win. If I hit a 1, I lose. So I have a 50% chance to win, a 1 in 6 chance to just lose. And you just say, okay, how likely do I think I am to win? Right?
How likely am I to win if I roll a 2 or 3, you're saying, right?
Yeah, or if I just don't do anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. Like, just, okay, I could take this risky line. It's pretty likely to work, but I'm really far ahead. The classic thing is like, the more ahead you are, the more or the less you need to take risk, right?
I think a lot of it, you just have to play a lot of games to really get a sense of this, which is kind of unfortunate, of like knowing how far ahead or behind you are. If you look at like the Dio example, I know it's like a little bit fake, but I think Dio can like kind of, it has the best like heuristic just built into the deck, because it's just your deck size. If you're looking at your deck size and it's like below 20 and your opponent's at 30, you might want to start taking some risky plays, because your window to win the game is dwindling, because it's just like objectively there. You have 20 cards left in your deck. You have to deal 30 damage over their blocking. So you should start going for more risky plays, because
it's unlikely to happen. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very unlikely
to
that
win
you can win
if things proceed. So you should start amping up the risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that is it.
Mm-hmm.
How ahead or behind you are is typically the risk.
Yeah.
There's like another small slot that applies with scabs that I see people don't do very often, which is like when you get into like an in-game scenario and you need to remove 2 cards from their hand. If you don't remove 2 cards from hand, you don't necessarily automatically lose the game. You're kind of doing what the person's asking, which you have like a neutral game state, but your ability to ever take 2 cards from their hand, what maybe never happens again. Quite often in like scenarios like this, where you have the opportunity to attempt to strip cards from your opponent's hand because you'll win on the next turn. Those are situations where you really want to think about if you're willing to take that risk or not, because that risk quite often means win the game. When not doing it doesn't mean lose the game necessarily. It just depends how proactive you want to be on your ability to win the game or not.
Yeah, I think the risk also, typically when we're talking about these risky plays, they're like towards the end of the game, where it's like much more clear whether this play will lead to a win or a loss. And Assassin has a lot of these kind of scenarios where you may make a play that's like, say for example, your hand is like Kiss of Death, Razor's Edge, the one that gives +3, and 2 attacks, like just 0 for 3 attacks. Your opponent's attacking for 6, you have to block with 2 cards and keep 2 cards. If you keep the Kiss of Death with the Razor's Edge, then you're taking a play that's basically like, okay, if my opponent blocks for 6 over blocking this, then my hand just converted to 6, it did nothing. Whereas if you keep the Kiss of Death plus another attack, it's potentially higher risk, because maybe then you're opening yourself up to other bad outcomes of how they block. Maybe they have like defense reactions, whatever, but you're increasing your upside, because now you can represent that Kiss of Death could be 6. They then block 6 and you sidestep by throwing the second attack for 3. Maybe not a perfect
versa.
example, but this is like a type of play that you can make that's like riskier in some instances, but may lead to a win, because you're just playing for higher upside.
I would say vice versa works as well. If you keep the react to try and like juice them for the 3 damage, then like
sorry, I forgot to say the first part. The first part is you want to understand your opponent. you want to understand how your opponent is wanting to block. Are they the kind of person who blocks to over like respect reacts, or the kind of person who just says you never have a react? That's why the end part of the game mattered, because ideally by this time you figured them out a little bit.
Yep.
You have anything, Fino? Sorry, we like snubbed you on this. Okay, proceed then.
Okay. Big Hungry asks, it feels like this next set is met with mixed feelings at best, with at least their locals, or very disappointing at worst. With this being the world set, and in hindsight, do you think that they should have swapped Super Slam and High Seas release dates?
I think
I don't know.
No,
I was gonna say, like, we don't know. The draft could be fucking amazing for all we know. Like, it'd be great.
I feel like Super Slam draft. My guess is that they're going to focus a lot on it, so I have high hopes for it. And also, I love that we got to draft High Seas twice, which is
I'm jealous that you get to draft it twice.
Yeah.
Fair.
I say I want it swapped because I only got to draft it at Nats, and it's basically never get to draft it again because who has product?
I don't know. I'm not negative on this product. I think the product's fine. I have no issue with it. I liked Heavy Hitters.
I think
Heavy Hitters 2 looks fine. The heroes look cool except for KO. But
wait, you think
they gave
the lame one? I think Tough Nut's the one that might be a little bit. If
I think
that hero is actually block 9 swing rock, it's going to be pretty.
It's not going to be that. It's probably going to be better.
I know,
hopefully.
but
he's literally Shrek.
Yeah. They gave me a dwarf guy who draws 5 cards. I'm like pretty happy. Like, I don't know.
He's literally Farquaad.
I'm hoping the draft is good.
Yeah, I think it's still way too early to say anything conclusive.
I guess I don't know. And the theme doesn't bother me. I guess
are people bothered by the theme?
Yeah.
Why?
Like pretty badly.
Why?
So
they say
this was like a long debate in my like locals group chat.
Have they just like never been to the Everfest Carnival?
That was the counterpoint of people being like, this feels like a flavor break, and it's like it isn't really. Like,
dude, what are you talking about?
Part of the
star of the show.
I agree. No,
I know. I'm speaking to the people who are saying that. Like, what are you talking about? Come on, Bravo, star of the show, Super Slam, like Heavy Hitters. The Deathmatch Arena already existed. It's a fable. If you're gonna get mad at it, you should have gotten mad at it when they made a stupid set with Olympia and Betsy that aren't even supposed to be CC heroes.
Part of the flavor of FAB. Part of the flavor of FAB is showing that there's more than just blood, gore, and war. People live their lives in this world. It is a living world where people have joy. Like, people are trying to live their lives in this world. So having these like little intermission sets just show that there's more than just the plot escalation constantly.
Dude, it's not a bad Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, not everything is the Avengers, dude. Like, it's fine. Like, we can just have a nice little sitcom with Tough Nut and Wyatt.
Also, like, isn't the topic still that it's the deathmatch arena? Like, they'd be killing, you know?
Yeah.
What sitcom is
no,
like
they'd be fake killing. They're entertaining the crowd.
Yeah, they get drinks with each other afterwards.
They're wrestling. They're wrestling.
They're wrestling, but people are bleeding. I feel like people don't bleed in wrestling. Maybe I was watching
the wrong
wrestling.
That's definitely
they do it. They do when they blade.
That's definitely not true.
It's ketchup.
Oh, they do that? Okay. I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm sorry.
I guess not in like collegiate wrestling, I guess, but in like most combat.
WWE, yeah, that's what
WWE. They definitely bleed.
They used to. They can't anymore. They've banned it because it's more child friendly now. But back in the day when I was a kid and actually watched it, then like they would bleed all the time. They'd cut their heads open with razor blades. That's what they did.
Wow. Okay, I can see why they banned that.
New lore. I did not know this lore.
Yeah,
that was very common.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. With that, I guess we're done. I hope you enjoyed the 2 hour and 13-minute podcast. Definitely probably one of the longest, if not the longest that we've ever done. With that, let us know if you...
We're getting rid of the envelope
7
here, but
envelope.
What we could do here is go ahead and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of envelope and darkness.